We are Newsroom. Hello and welcome once again from Johannesburg here in South Africa. My name, of course, is Reverend. This show is always live, broadcast from our studios right here in Auckland Park. Between 9 and 12 every weekday morning. You can also watch us live via the streaming facility on YouTube or back on demand a little bit later in the day. Today's question, while we're dealing with small business development here in South Africa, entrepreneurship, and we ask you the question, there it is on screen, is it too difficult to run a small business in South Africa? Now, we'll have the Minister of Small Business Development here in studio with us a little bit later. We'll ask her the question as well. And hopefully you can interact with us and send us the questions that you have with regards to small business development here in this country. That's our theme for today, but we've got lots of other issues to deal with. There's Youth Month, amongst others. First, though, let's go get the morning's news with us.
Today marks the deadline for independent candidates and political parties to submit their list of candidates who will run for the August 3rd local government elections. Evidence leaders at the Claassen Board of Inquiry into suspended Police Commissioner Ria Piega's fitness to hold office will continue with closing arguments today. And a special provincial funeral for the community leader and academic, Reverend Dr. Simon Kubule, who takes place at the Utenake Indoor Sports Centre in the Eastern Cape today. That's some of the stories coming up in this hour, but first let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front. A very good morning to you, Kendall.
Good morning to the both of you. A big morning in the world of sports. As we all know, quite a lot's being said by coaches all around. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports today.
I don't think we did our homeworks properly in those two games. We just thought maybe they'll come like all other teams.
And Bafana coach Shakes Mashaba admits that his lack of planning has led to Bafana's poor performances. As Makaya Ntini is appointed as Zimbabwe's interim head coach as their cricket board makes whole-scale changes.
Final in Madrid, semi-final Monaco. So it's going to be interesting match for sure.
Andy Murray and Stan Wawrinka are looking forward to their French Open semi-final clash. All this and more we've got for you in the Sports Bulletin at 10:20, but for now, it's back to the main desk for the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. Today marks the deadline for independent candidates and political parties to submit the list of candidates who will run for the August 3rd local government elections. The Independent Electoral Commission, the IEC, says more than 260 parties have registered so far. The Western Cape and the Eastern Cape have the most registered parties. The IEC said that registered parties that wanted to contest the election should submit the list of their candidates before the close of business today at 5 p.m. Registration of a party to contest municipal elections require payment of 300 rand and signatures of 100 registered voters. The IEC says the number of the registered independent candidates has increased significantly. Community leader and academic Reverend Dr. Simon Kubule will today be laid to rest at Utenake in the Eastern Cape. Kubule died in a Port Elizabeth hospital last week after a short illness. He was 88. He has been accorded a special provincial official funeral for his immense contribution in education, the liberation struggle, community building and religion. Dr. Kubule was awarded the Order of Luthuli in silver by the President in April in recognition of his excellent contribution to the liberation struggle and to the field of education. Earlier this week, President Jacob Zuma said that he is saddened by the death of one of the country's leading academics. Flags will be flown at half-mast in the province for today's funeral. Let's now get an update and quickly cross there live to see what is happening. Let's see if we got the pictures up and running, and our reporter Lerato Tipa is there. Lerato, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Very good morning to you.
Lerato, are you there?
Lerato, are you there?
To go through this
Well, it seems like I can see the picture, but I don't know if you can hear me. Lorato, let's try one more time. Well, I don't think we can get that connection right now. We'll see if we can get an update from Lorato in a short while, so stay tuned for that one. Evidence leaders at the Claassen Board of Inquiry into suspended Police Commissioner Ria Piega's fitness to hold office will continue with closing arguments today. Yesterday, the inquiry heard that the commissioner succumbed to political pressure during the violent labor unrest at Marikana's Lonmin Platinum Mine in 2012. Lawyers for the injured and deceased miners in the 2012 Marikana incident, in which 34 miners died and at least 78 injured, reiterated that Piega is not fit to hold office. They told the inquiry that she failed to draw the line at the 2012 Marikana incident. The Farlam Commission of Inquiry findings levelled 14 allegations of misconduct against Piega. Lawyers representing miners, meanwhile, submitted an affidavit from UMCU President Joseph Matunywa. Advocate Dalian Mpofu accused Piega of concealing crucial evidence during her testimony at the Farlam Commission. Let's now go back to that story. Community leader and academic Reverend Dr. Simon Kabule will today be laid to rest at Uitenhage in the Eastern Cape. Let's now see if we can connect with our reporter on the scene, Lorato Tipa. Lorato, I hope that you can hear me now. Very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you. We're broadcasting live from the Uitenhage Sports Centre for what has been called the Thanksgiving service of the late Reverend Dr. Simon Kabule. Earlier on, we saw members of the SNDF take the coffin inside the hall, and also saw members of the family making their way inside the hall as well. We've seen dignitaries come here to honour this late man, and we've seen the MEC, Phemema Judina, is also here, the Eastern Cape Premier, Phumla Moswale, and the Executive Mayor of the Nelson Mandela Metro, Denny Jordan, is also here this morning. Also the VC of Rhodes University, Vice Chancellor Dr. Sizo Mabizela, is here to honour this man as well. But joining me this morning is Phemema Judina, the MEC. Tell us exactly what she will remember the doctor as. Phemi, what do you think that the doctor will be remembered more mostly?
A selfless leader who liked his people to the end, a reconciler. He loved education. He made it a point that he served with humility and dignity, as well as respecting one another. And out of that, we are saying this was the best of the people we had in this province. Hence, we are giving him a best send-off. He was a father figure of our province, religiously as well as in the community.
Well, that was the MEC, Phemema Judina, saying that the Reverend is going to be remembered for the immense contribution he did to his community. You remember that he was the first black scholar to be given a doctorate at the University of Rhodes University, and the VC, Dr. Sizo Mabizela, is here to honour him for that. And above all, he was saying that this man was a man who gave back to his community. There is a large contingency of people from the church, because you will know that between 1981 and 1982, he was given an officer to be the presiding officer of the Methodist Church for his contribution towards the church. So this was a man who served within the church, a man who served within the community, and also a man who also had political affiliations. But despite that, what you do hear from community members is that he was a man who loved to serve. We also are aware that he ran several programs in the community to assist grade 10 to 12s who were struggling in various subjects. People here are saying that to them, he was what we are called daddy. To the rest of the world, he must be a leader. He was an educational person. But to people here in Uitenhage, he was a man that they called daddy, a man who was able to, as high as regard that he was taken in society, was able to come to Uitenhage to say, how can I be of assistance to you? So it really is a huge loss to people in this area, and people from as vast as Eastern Cape have come out to support and to give their honour to this great man. Early on, I was saying that various dignitaries are here. The Eastern Cape Premier, Phumla Moswale, is going to be giving a vote of encouragement and comfort to the family. The family has made its way inside the hall as well. So people from various sectors, from government, from the church, from the community, are here to bid farewell to a man who was passionate about education. That, I think, above all, is what he loved the most. He wanted to make sure that people, especially kids from underprivileged backgrounds, do get the same opportunities, and he fought up until the age of 82 to make sure that people and kids who come from disadvantaged backgrounds get equal opportunities. We're speaking to people early on, they were saying that, you know what, to them he was daddy. He was the man who'd come to your house and say, what do you need? As much as he had a high position in church, a high position in parliament, a high position in government, government, he was able to come back to their level and serve the people of this community. And in Newton, they're here to say, salute to this great leader, salute to this great man, salute to someone who was able to serve and give back to his community. And he'll be remembered for that this morning. It's going to be quite a lengthy service. Various speakers are going to be giving honor and recognition to this great man. We have people from the church, like I was saying earlier on. He played a great role in the church and was on the forefront of making sure that religion is upheld and authenticity within the church is still upheld. And he'll be remembered for such as well. But earlier on, I was saying that he was the first black scholar to be given a scholarship at Rhodes University. And Dr. Sizwe Mabizela is here just to honor him for that as well, because I think that he paved the way for other future professors to know that it really is possible to go as high as being a professor, and still possible to go as high as being a bishop, but still be able to go back to your community and give back. So today is really all about to say that, you know what, salute that as high as he was a server and someone dedicated to serving the people of this country. And today people are here to say congratulations and thanksgiving, actually more than anything else, for the life and the legacy that he now leaves behind. And that's a wrap for me in PE. As we continue the service inside, it's back to you in studio.
Now, the public sector plans to absorb young unemployed graduates with artisan and engineering skills into employment through leadership programs. Public Service Minister Newsroom was addressing a youth in Mbizo in the Eastern Cape, where the program was launched.
Mantombi Tetyana is an electrical engineering graduate from the dusty town of Dumitru. She graduated in 2009 but has not found employment since then. 7 years down the line, she has not yet abandoned her dreams of becoming an engineer. She was part of many unemployed graduates who attended the youth in Mbizo. The Buffalo City Metro Municipality will identify young people with these scarce skills and put them in a skills development program in the municipality.
About 45,000 per child to enter into some skills and then specialized skills, and that will take these kids and then put them in various municipalities, and some of them will be retained in the long term once they finish with that program, which will be for 2 years.
A task team from the department and the municipality has been set up to fast-track this process.
After 3 months, we are going to come back as a department to assess the impact this outreach has had in the community at large.
The program will also be launched in other municipalities in different parts of the country. Busiswe Jamsana, SABC News, Tanzania.
Now, our theme for today, we're looking at the situation of small businesses in South Africa and entrepreneurs. And the question that we pose to you, of course, is right there on your screen. We want to know from you, is it very tough in this country to actually hold on to a business, to start a business? We'd like to get your thoughts. There's the question there for you. Let us know what's on your mind on the Twitter handle as well as on the Facebook page. Is it difficult to start a business or to hold on to a small business in this country? Would like to know from you. It's over to Eben to start the conversation.
Yes, it's an interesting fact. The number of South Africans interested in starting up businesses has halved over the past 5 years in South Africa. This is according to the report compiled by the Global Entrepreneurial Monitor. Now, amongst the reasons stated for the decline is unprofitability, monopolies, which is interesting, government policies, and problems in accessing finance to sustain these businesses. Last year alone, the report says 62% of new businesses in South Africa had to close down. The report further states that the decline is mostly affecting black South Africans and women. Now, to look at the details of the report and possible remedies for it, we are joined by Lindiwe Zulu, the Minister of Small Business Development here in South Africa. Very good morning to you, Madam Minister. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much and good morning, and thank you for this time. We need to explain what we are about, what we do, and of course the response to the report.
This report paints a picture that I often see as a view from outside into South Africa. Give us your overview of the report, and then maybe you can give us a view from inside of South Africa.
Well, firstly, we would like to welcome the report, and we would like to say that we will need to also engage with Global Entrepreneurship Week Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. We have to engage with them, because the reason why you would have a report like this is because you need to be able to know what exactly is happening, what are the causes of the things that you've just spoken about. But more than anything else is about what are your solutions to it. So we welcome the report because it gives us an eye view of where entrepreneurship is in South Africa. And in any case, we've also been talking about the fact that entrepreneurship in South Africa is lacking behind in comparison to the majority of countries, particularly in the African continent.
One of the things that stand out mentioned is monopolies. How do you see this play out in the South African picture? Is there a scenario where some of the monopolies that we see are making it difficult for small businesses not only to start up but to survive?
Yes, absolutely. That is one of the reasons why we are engaging with big business. That's why, from the point of view of the president, who has now called all big business together to have the conversation, because monopoly is a problem. Monopoly just closes the doors in most instances. Monopoly even shuts out small businesses even in the township. You can see that the malls are creeping into, in fact, many of them are in the townships already. And when we look at who is in the mall, you realize that it's the usual big companies, and the smaller companies cannot afford to pay rent there. They cannot just afford to be in that space. So we need to have that engagement. That is why government, for instance, has got a program on township development and rural development, because we're looking at what is it that we can maintain and sustain for small and medium enterprises. But that's one element of it from a point of view of smaller businesses. You've got small and medium enterprises. Who supplies, for instance, I just want to be very practical. Who supplies what, for instance, to Toyota? When Toyota is assembling a car, who supplies that? In the main, you get that big business are the ones that are producing all the parts, when some of the parts can be produced by medium enterprises. And that, when you give that opportunity to the enterprises, you help them to be innovative, you help them to even employ more people. So we're looking at how can we work together in making sure that we do what other countries, developed countries, are doing. Small and medium enterprises are the backbone of developed countries. Why can't we do the same in South Africa?
The concern, I think, that you must also be concerned about is that when this report talks to who are the most affected, young black people. We're in the middle of Youth Month, and we know that government have a whole variety of youth programs, summits and so forth that's being put forward. But young black people are most affected, and women. Surely that must be a concern to you.
It always will be a concern, especially when we look at the fact that the majority of people who are unemployed are in the category of youth, and the fact that we've got a youth bulge, and the fact that we also have young people who are coming out of school or universities or college and are unable to get jobs. We're saying to young people today, they don't necessarily have to be looking for jobs. They can also begin to look at what is it that they can do. And we are here as the Department of Small Business Development. We've got programs that are specifically tailored towards young people. But it's not only just about our department. We've got the entire government beginning to look at programs that are tailored to supporting small and medium enterprises, but supporting youth in particular. Young people today think that the best thing to do is to go to university. They don't necessarily all have to go to university, because universities can't absorb everyone. There are technical colleges. And so the Department of Small Business Development is working with what we call TVET colleges, and would like to encourage them to go to the TVET colleges, because whether you're talking about skills today, the skills that are necessary today, because that's another problem. You have others going in and studying something that's not necessarily needed in the economy of today. So we're working with TVET colleges to make sure that young people get the skills and they can go out and start their own businesses.
You talk about that entrepreneurial spirit, or the culture of entrepreneurship in South Africa is something that government is very much working on and trying to develop. But what comes out of this report, and sort of deals directly to it, is that young black people in particular are battling to access finance to start and to sustain small business?
Yes, absolutely. The report itself talks about those businesses that are surviving, what we call the value of death. 3 years, they normally die. The report talks about the fact that those that are established are rising in survival, and those that are new are the ones that are struggling. That's why when you have a report like this, it enables you to then look at what are the interventions, how can you develop interventions that can easily address that. Our department, again, together with other government departments, we have a small enterprise development agency, which is the non-financial support. And then we've also got small enterprise finance agency, which is SIFA, which is the one that is looking at how can we support. I know that many would say, yeah, but SIFA gives us only about 5 million. There's lots of people in the small business who would be happy to have that 5 million to build their businesses. But we're working with other financing, development finance institutions, your NEF, your IDC, your PIC. We're all working together to make sure that we have a coordinated approach to supporting small and medium enterprises. Finances will always be a difficulty for everybody. People can't go to the banks because the banks don't even want to look at them. But as government, and we are trying our best to make sure that we create that conducive environment. Our offices are also in all 9 provinces. We also even have mobile offices that are going out to reach out to our people, particularly young people.
Ma'am, I thank you for joining us. It's a very difficult job that you have we are at the effect of tough global economic conditions, and it's very difficult to sustain the kind of projects that we do, but we're doing it with great gusto. Thank you for joining us.
I'm excited because I think that young people, particularly small and medium enterprises themselves, are beginning to realize that it's about them. What we do as government is to create the conducive environment for them, but we can't run their businesses for them. They have to run their businesses for themselves.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us.
My
of
pleasure.
course, we will continue this discussion a little bit later with Deputy Minister Buti Manamela in the presidency. Of course, we'll be talking about Youth Month and what other programs that government will be launching and sustaining from now on into the future with regards to South Africa's young people. But, of course, in the news for the last 24 hours, the Auditor General's report on local government obviously standing by.
That's right, Urban. Irregular expenditure by municipalities has more than doubled since the current administration took office 5 years ago. Now, this was one of the findings presented in the Auditor General, Kimi Makwetu's 2014-2015 report on municipalities yesterday. Now, in 2010 to 2011, irregular expenditure was 7.3 billion rand, but this has risen, doubled to 14.75 billion. Now, to unpack the story further in our studios, we are joined by Kimi Makwetu, South Africa's Auditor General. AG, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Miss.
Now, I know you're a very busy man this morning because people want to know from you all the ins and the outs. But first and foremostly, explain to our viewers the concept of irregular expenditure.
In government, when you have to spend, there are certain rules that guide how that expenditure must be handled. If, for example, a government department wants to buy a building, it's required to invite more than one provider of the building in the form of a tender, so that there can be a transparent process through which government goods and services are bought. If you don't prescribe, if you don't accord to those prescribed rules, you then fall foul of the supply chain management rules. Any expenditure, therefore, that is incurred in an environment where you did not use the rules that apply to supply chain will be classified in the audit as irregular expenditure. What this also means is that it does not mean that you do not have that building that you were buying. You might still have that building because you probably did buy the building. All we are saying to the ones who are supposed to oversee the institution is that your ways of going about doing municipal business are not above board, are not transparent. They may pose the risk of the municipality being committed to excess financial commitments than it can afford.
We saw a picture now of the map of the municipalities that's shown across the country. But what or who are these municipalities that are the main culprits when it comes to irregular expenditure?
Well, the irregular expenditure, unfortunately, is spread across quite a number of municipalities, way in excess of 200 of the total. Even some of these that are unqualified with findings have got some level of irregular expenditure. Even the ones that are qualified, which are purple in the color code, have also got levels of irregular expenditure, which are much significant. But when you go to the levels where there is still disclaimers, you have a level of irregular expenditure, but you do not know whether it is complete. Because the fact that you have arrived at a disclaimer of an opinion suggests that you did not have sufficient access to all the information you needed. So you were able to do with what you could get to, as far as the disclaimers are concerned. So this practice of having to continue to have irregular expenditure, what you are saying in that report is that here's the 14.75 billion, which potentially could include elements of undesirable conduct when it comes to handling finances. The councils, as they are authorized by the Municipal Systems Act, are required to further investigate the substance and the reasons behind the occurrence on a frequent basis of those irregular expenditures. And that's the message that is in the report.
In your report, you also said it's not all doom and gloom because there is some improvements across some of the municipalities. Where were these improvements?
If you look at the overall picture for the whole 5 years, just in summary, you have about 143 municipalities in total that have reported audit outcomes in 2014-15, which are better than what they had done over the last 4 years. So that's the first point, 143 of all of them across all provinces in total. Then you've got about 39 municipalities that have moved backwards, the ones that have recorded an audit outcome that is worse than what they were in 2010, 2011, over the 5-year period. So that's the overall picture. But if you look at provinces and you hone in into the provinces, the Western Cape certainly stands out as one that has got significant improvements and quite a lot of these audits that have become clean, followed by Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. And what we've said in the report as well, if you look at the municipalities within the Eastern Cape, the Free State, as well as Mpumalanga, municipalities in those 3 provinces are the mid-level category in the sense that for many years, over the last 5 years, they are the kind of municipalities that have not been making progress with regards to financial management improvement. Now they are starting to emerge out of that rut. They are now beginning to earn their respect in terms of getting clean audits, but the base from which they are starting over the 5 years is still very low anyway. Then the last bit will be the combination of Limpopo, the Northern Cape, as well as the Northwest municipalities, who are still struggling to make a significant impact in addressing those issues. So the bulk, therefore, of all these audit infractions you will find among those categories of municipalities, the mid-level as well as the ones at the bottom.
Now, you did mention Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, very good improvements there. But what is interesting to note is that between them and the Western Cape, there's a huge gap. What does the Western Cape, for instance, what are they doing differently in order to get to the numbers that they have?
If we cast our minds back and we look at the comparative of the Western Cape in 2010, 2011, can we say that the Western Cape in this context would easily be described as a David Khatebe, who ran the Oceans, the Comrades Marathon, and then was still able to do some push-ups at the finishing end. So that's effectively what happened with regards to the Western Cape, quite fairly. That 5 years ago, they were where most of these municipalities are now. That's the reality. They were where these municipalities were 5 years ago, the Western Cape. And what has happened is the leadership in that province has made it an institutionalized discipline to oversee on a quarterly basis all the municipalities with their mayors and municipal managers when it comes to the disciplines of finance, when it comes to addressing audit outcomes. And that's why you see them looking like they are doing push-ups at the tail end.
Is there something that the other municipalities can learn from the Western Cape?
It's a leadership discipline. That's the point I think we're emphasizing. That the leadership did not take the eye off the ball. Even if something looked like the absence of an account reconciliation, they nagged the administrative leadership. And they made sure that they get them to respond without having to make excuses throughout the period.
We're out of time, AG, but your final push-up, a word of advice to these municipalities?
Leadership action is what turns these things around, because a lot of it is to do with, are the leaders comfortable with what they have, or are they prepared to change it?
Audits General, thank you so much for your time and joining us here in studio.
Lovely.
That was Kimi Makwetu, South Africa's Auditor General, right here in studio. We'll take now a short break, but we'll be right back. And remember, our theme for today, we're looking at business, entrepreneurship. What is the contribution of small business in this country to the economy? Is it too difficult to run your small business in your backyard? I want to know from you on this forum at SABC Newsroom, as well as on the Facebook page. We'll take that after the break.
Welcome back. You're still with Newsroom here on SABC News. Now, the National Youth Development Agency, in partnership with the Department of Art and Culture, yesterday launched the annual Youth Month program under the theme, Youth, Moving South Africa Forward. Of course, this year we are commemorating the 40th year of the 1976 students' uprising against the apartheid state. Yesterday, the Minister in the Presidency for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, Mr. Jeff Radebe, took us back to June 16, 1976, the revolt against an apartheid government, with a clear message then that young people did not matter. Back then, young people were actually seen as a threat. Today, the youth in South Africa face different challenges, and this month, the focus will be on addressing those. Now, I'm joined live in our Pretoria studio this morning by the Deputy Minister for Planning, Monitoring, Evaluation and Administration, Mr. Buti Manamela. Very good morning to you, Mr. Minister. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, and also good morning to viewers.
The 40th commemoration of the 1976 student uprising affords us an opportunity to reflect a little bit as a nation. What will we be focusing on or reflecting on this year?
Look, I mean, we're obviously trying to connect between the generation 40 years ago and today. The big issues at the time was, how do we transform the classroom? How do we ensure that there's quality basic education for the millions of South Africans? And also, how do we ensure that there's, learning and teaching that takes place? But what we said, for instance, yesterday was that young people at the time were not listened to. All that the apartheid government did was to bring in shamboks, put them into line and all of that. And the intention of the education system was to ensure that they could read as much as possible so that they can say, yeah, bus, near bus, and move this here and there. But today, we see a completely transformed, schooling system. I'm certain, the people like Hector Peterson would not have imagined a multiracial classroom in South Africa as instructed by the Constitutional Court, earlier in the month. They would not have imagined that 10 million school-going kids out of 12 million are on a government feeding scheme. They would not have imagined that today close to 1 million young black South Africans are going to university, and 700,000 of those are going to an FET college. And of course, there are challenges. I mean, we are obviously not oblivious to those. We're not in denial that although there's been progress made, there are challenges that we need to attend to. Some of those include the fact that there's deepening inequalities, there's high unemployment, particularly amongst young people. There's a low level, as you have just been discussing with the Minister of Small Business Development, low level appetite amongst young people to pursue entrepreneurship. And probably also because that's not linked to a skill. There's land hunger amongst particularly young people. So at a broader level there is, but it's even worse when it comes to young people. So those are some of the challenges that, we will be confronting, and we have been confronting. I mean, the main message and theme for this year's Youth Month is how do we open up economic opportunities for young people? How do we empower them with information? Because what we've realized, working together with government communications, is that the biggest challenge amongst young people is access to information of available opportunities in both the public and private sector. When young people believe government is doing nothing, but whereas on the other hand, there is a package of interventions that have been put into place in order to address the needs, interests, and aspirations of young people. I'm not saying that they're enough, but at least those which are available, we are going all out throughout this whole year to make sure that those opportunities are available. You'll be seeing more and more of not only government deputy ministers, but also government agencies that would be reaching out to communities saying this is what is available for young people. The President instructed us to ensure, as the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, that every government department, every sphere of government must prioritize youth and the challenges that young people are confronted with.
Mr. Minister, in the medium term, you are driving a National Youth Policy 2020 process. Just give us a quick update. Where are you?
Look, we are now, excitingly at a stage where we're implementing the youth policy. It's now been integrated into the broader government plan. So every government department is expected to report on what they are doing with regards to the 5 priority areas of the youth, of the National Youth Policy. That is education, economic inclusion, national cohesion, dealing with substance and alcohol abuse, and also ensuring that we optimize youth development institutions. We are at an advanced stage of amending the NYDA Act. We'll be taking that to both Cabinet and Parliament and for public consultations to ensure that we institutionalize youth development. As is now, we are working on integrating the National Youth Policy section on economic inclusion into the President and government's 9-point plan. And I'm excited that we had set ourselves a year ago when the minister signed the National Youth Policy into law. We had said to ourselves, we are going to be pushing youth entrepreneurship, as a key program, encouraging young people to take up, small businesses, seeing themselves not as seekers of jobs, but as creators of jobs. Today, the NYDA has converted its loan into grant in order to, increase uptake. We are implementing a 2.7 billion rand youth fund with the IDC and with SIFA, which will encourage, youth entrepreneurship. We have launched, I think, one of the most successful youth business mentorship program with Mara Mentor. More than 350,000 young people are being mentored on business. And I'm not even going into the details around, the number of young people who go to NYDA offices for that purpose. So that's that in terms of entrepreneurship. We this morning as I leave, I'm going into a workshop of experts so that we look at how are we going to roll out the National Youth Service, 1 million young people. That's our target in up to 2020. It's a global phenomena. It is something that South Africa should not be left out of. And I think finally we are beginning to see action in terms of some of the challenges and bottlenecks we've seen in relation to access to FET. The minister earlier Small Business Development spoke about how young people want to go to universities. But I think we're beginning to see a turnaround. 13,000 annually artisans are being churned out, out of FET colleges. And we're calling on the private sector to give FET graduates experiential training. That will help in terms of them getting the skills they require, but it also help to build entrepreneurship and also to reduce, unemployment. And I think, yes, there have been incidents where young people were involved into, burning of schools, as we've seen in the north, as we've seen in Fort Hare, as we've seen in some instances. But those are isolated incidents. There are young people who are, victims of substance and drugs abuse. Those are isolated. The majority of young people are saying no to drugs, no to alcohol. They're saying those who are burning schools are burning our future. They do not represent us. And I think that we should stop, putting young people into one basket as the so-called lost generation, as those who are not interested in their future. The majority of young people looks, very badly at political leaders who decides to break public institutions like Parliament. They're saying not in our name, and that's the central message which we'll be sending out this Youth Month.
Mr. Minister, we've run out of time, but I would like to invite you back a little bit later in the month. We're going to have lots of programs. I understand you've got programs in the rural areas, Northern Cape and the like. Hopefully we can talk about that in the months, in the weeks to come as we celebrate Youth Month here in South Africa. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Of course, that is the Deputy Minister for Planning, Monitoring, Evaluation and Administration here in South Africa, a man who's passionate about young people in South Africa, and I agree with him. We will look at the 0.001% of people who are burning schools, and then we want to paint all young people as if they are delinquents. That is not the case. The majority, the vast majority of young South Africans are interested in uplifting themselves and moving forward, and so should we. Let's take a look now at what's happening on social media this morning. Now, we'll start with a hashtag Benoni. 2 bodies were found in a burnt container in Pomona, in Benoni on the East Rand in the early hours of this morning. That's a hashtag Benoni. Then, hashtag SACP, the South African Communist Party. They're distancing themselves from the ANC, following the ANC's decision to effectively close its investigation on state capture. SACP Second Deputy General Soli Mapaia is challenging the party's decision. Then, hashtag Baklu. Daily commuters who use this road and its off-ramps are getting tired of the traffic congestion, the accidents and roadworks, they say. There's a stationary vehicle on the N1 South after Baklu, and the emergency lane is blocked right now. It's causing heavy delays. Moving further afield, hashtag Boss Bawo. This relates to Uganda's new smoking laws. As of this week, it is no longer legal to smoke anywhere in public. People lining up in bars, restaurants or hotels now face a fine of up to $60. That's almost 1,000 rand, or they'll be jailed for up to 2 months. Boss Bawo is the man who is spreading the campaign or leading the campaign. He was quoted as saying, "Cool guys, don't smoke." Yeah, they're going to be cracking down. Even our health minister said we'll be cracking down. Now, the picture of the day. This one comes from Nakiz Nasir Hamad. And it says, when I met the most admirable, talented and smart kids in Afghanistan, talking about International Children's Day. What a lovely picture. This is in Afghanistan. Yes, International Children's Day, of course, celebrated earlier this week. Now, the Limpopo and Northwest provinces have again failed to produce a single municipality with a clean audit. This was detailed in the Auditor General's report, as was discussed a little bit earlier. It was tabled in Pretoria yesterday. Now, let's have a look at what's been said on Twitter. You can also send your comments to @SABC Newsroom. Don't forget that. Spiwe Khobasi says 92% of SA municipalities are experiencing financial problems, according to the Auditor General. This country needs to go on auction urgently. Spiwe, it's not so bad, my man. Lehlo Honolo Lehana says the Auditor General has called for more accountability in the municipalities that are riddled by financial mismanagement. Nicholas Bauer, Auditor General Kimi Makweta takes us through municipalities' audit outcomes in Pretoria. Results show an encouraging improvement. Nicholas Bauer takes another different view on it. Yes, it's all in the eye of the... Mamokgethi says even Kimi Makweta sounded defeated when he presented the audit outcomes of my home province, Northwest. Yes, my dear, it's all in the eye of the beholder. On the one side of the coin, people think there's improvement. On the other one, despair. I suppose depends what publications you read at the end of the day. Let's take a quick look at the front pages from around the newspapers from around the world. We'll start in Europe. The Times reports that men in their 50s can significantly cut their chances of developing aggressive prostate cancer by losing a few inches around the waist. We all share in that fight, unfortunately. Then in the US, the USA Today says Donald Trump is a fighter famous for legal skirmishes over everything from his golf courses to tax bills to Trump University. Finally, in Israel, the Jerusalem Post reports that senior government officials have reached out in recent weeks to advisors close to former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, as well as real estate tycoon Donald Trump, to begin lobbying against the prospect that Barack Obama will join an international peace effort in his final days in office. I wonder what is wrong with that. Maybe if your economy was built on war, an international peace effort is not a good idea. Let's take a look at what's happening in the courts. Here in Johannesburg, hip-hop star Kulani Marule, known as Kulichana, is expected back in the High Court. The case has reached a final settlement, or a financial settlement, with police after officers shot him in 2013. In a case of mistaken identity, Kulichana was pursued by police who believe he was a kidnapper and shot at him 9 times. Now, we'll be sure to keep you updated on more on that case as well as other court cases around the country. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll speak to the National Youth Development Agency in South Africa about the outlook for young people.
Today provide news updates giving a wealth of knowledge, breaking stories and crossing live for you. We follow business developments intensely. Experts and analysts tackle all challenging issues for you. We cover stories locally and abroad to keep you informed. We cover all sporting codes just for you. We are sure to give you weather to be ready for the day. Stay tuned to News Today at 3 p.m. from Monday to Friday on SABC News.
Entrepreneurship, jobs, business. Well, the question that we pose to you right now on your screen, we want to know from you. Is it tough? Is it difficult to run a business, to start a business right here in South Africa, in your backyard, in your garage, or to start off as a small business? Is it tough? Let me know. Is it too difficult to run a small business in South Africa? I'd like to get your thoughts on the number, on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, as well as on the Facebook page. We'll read some of those comments a little bit later. Meanwhile, the National Youth Development Agency, the NYDA, is an agency that's aimed at providing young entrepreneurs with an opportunity to access both the financial as well as non-financial business development support to establish their businesses. Now, in light of the Global Entrepreneurial Monitor report, which revealed that the number of South Africans interested in opening up businesses has declined, we've invited the NYDA to tell us about their role and their contribution in helping aspiring, that means aspiring you, young entrepreneurs out there, to start up their businesses. To discuss that further, we are joined in studio by the CEO of the NYDA, Katu Ramakumba. Mr. Ramakumba, very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning to you and good morning to our viewers.
Now, I've read the introduction there, but if you can just explain to us, because some people are not really familiar with the NYDA and what you do, just explain that for us.
Look, in short, the agency was established through a merger of the former Umsobomvu Youth Fund and the National Youth Commission. The idea of the merger was to take an integrated approach to youth development in the country. The Umsobomvu Youth Fund was mainly responsible for the incorporation of young people in the mainstream economy of the country, either through employment or through entrepreneurship. So primarily they would have focused on youth funding as well as skills development, whereas the National Youth Commission would have been tasked with the role of lobbying and advocating for youth development across all sectors of society. Now these two mandates have now been collapsed into one, but the mandate has been further expanded to say that the agency must focus on everything that is youth development, whether you're talking about health issues insofar as people are concerned, young people are concerned, or you're talking about economic participation and so forth and so forth. So we have a broad focus, even though a government and the Act makes it clear that over and above direct implementation of these projects and programs that must assist young people in these activities, we must also focus on mainstreaming and facilitating youth development such that all people, all organizations, all entities across all sectors implement youth development.
Now, there were some complaints and some concerns that the process of getting funding from the NYDA is near to impossible. What do you say to that, and what does it take for a small business really to get funding from the NYDA?
Look, let me start by the second part of the question. The process of getting funding from the NYDA is a simple one. All you need to do, or all you need to be, is to be a young South African, at least of 18 years of age, but not over the age of 35. Have a business idea. That's all we ask for. Because with us, if you come to us, we'll assist you firstly with even registering a business, which will do pay for you for free, so you don't have to pay anything. We'll assist you with putting together a business plan, which you will be assisted by professional service providers, which will pay for, so you don't pay for it. We'll also, put you through an entrepreneurship development training program, where we'll tell you about what entrepreneurship is about, how you go about running a business on a day-to-day, how you deal with challenges and so forth and so forth. We will then, furthermore, give you the actual financing for the activities that you require in order to run your business operation. We will also assist you with market linkages so that we are able to interact with those who must buy your products and services. We'll also offer you mentorship from those with an experience and the know-how in the business space that you're operating in. Now, the question of complaints about getting assistance from the NYDA must be viewed in context. It's not that the NYDA is an ineffective organization. The reality of the situation is that we're living in a country which is youthful in nature. Statistics reports tells us that some 22 million people in this country are under the age of 35. You have an organization that is the NYDA that on average in the last 5 years has been funded at a rate of 410 million. What do you do with 410 million in this situation where you have a huge demand from young people? So you will get applications from, say, for example, 10,000 young people who are looking for grants. But the reality is that because your budget allocation is only 35 million for grants, you can only help so much. So those that don't get help are crying, and the cries are genuine.
What is your view on the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor report that indicates that South Africans interested in opening businesses has basically halved in the last 5 years? Does it paint a good picture of our entrepreneurial spirit in the country?
No, it doesn't. It certainly doesn't. It certainly worries us. In fact, the Global Economic Monitor report reflects on some of the issues that ourselves as the NYDA had already identified. This is part of the reason why we said, for an example, we should be able to reduce the cost of registering businesses for young people. That is why we will pay the CIPC registration, right? That is why we will pay for a business plan to be put together. That is why we are doing all these things. We're even going to the extent of saying we'll move away from loan financing and give young people grants so that we encourage them to go into the entrepreneurship space. The same report that we're referring to says that part of the reason why there is a decline in entrepreneurship activities amongst generally people in South Africa is the fear of failure. When people have the fear of failure, they're worried about being taken to the credit bureaus and all those kinds of things. Now, when we take out that element of the risk of facing negative consequences out of failing, you then encourage people to, or you stimulate the idea of participation. So we're beginning to see a lot of young people being interested in entrepreneurship, as it were.
Carter, there's a lot more to discuss, but unfortunately we're running out of time. Your advice to young entrepreneurs today who wants to start their businesses?
My advice is that the democratic government has put a lot of initiatives that must be taken advantage of. Maybe in closing, I would want to speak about the partnership that we've gone into with IDC and CIFA, where we've set aside 2.7 billion rands for young people. And I just want to make a challenge to young people, because we are seeing a lot more success within the CIFA space, where CIFA is offering up to 5 million rand. But in the space of IDC, which is offering anything between 5 million and 50 million, we're not seeing young people. We're struggling to find, bankable and fundable business ideas. So my challenge to young people is think big, dream big. The resources are there. The government is creating opportunities. Take advantage of them in honor of the generation of 1976, which laid down their lives so that you today can live a prosperous and better life.
So it's all about an idea, and bring it to you and you'll make it work.
We will make it work.
Katu, thank you so much for your time joining us here.
Thank you.
That was Katu Ramukuba, the CEO of the NYDA. It's over to Eben for some more comments.
Yeah, obviously you've been asking this question to everybody all day. Is it too difficult to run a small business in South Africa? We've asked this question since we started the show. Let's take a look at some of the tweets we've received, but also some of the comments on Facebook. Now, Unati Grootboom, he talks about a Newsroom. The NYDA is not rolling out anything. I don't even know it exists anymore. We've just spoken to the CEO, Unati. You should have listened to the CEO, and they're even rolling out more money and have more initiatives along with the IDC. Then MJ says, Newsroom, it's not easy at all to start a business, if we can call it. Big businesses and government don't want to give us business and resources. We can't grow at this pace. It's not just a question of giving you business and resources. We have to think outside of the box during difficult economic climate. Unati's back. He says, Newsroom, it's difficult because government doesn't support most of the startup small businesses so people can get jobs. Those are the views of Unati Grootboom here on SABC News. Let's take a quick look at what has come in on Facebook. Do we have a Facebook comment? There we go. We're waiting for it. While we're waiting for it, of course, we ask you a question today. Is it too difficult, or is it too difficult to start a small business? Mark Darmons. Well, Mark Darmons put this on our Facebook page. He says, good morning, Minister. Of course, talking to you. Attended the SABC conference in February this year and stopped at our exhibition stand. You seem to be impressed with our initiative to trade steel in townships. One of the MECs in your entourage joked about how our objective for township economy revitalization, new township, creating a new economy and creating decent jobs in township. Yet we are still struggling to raise funds for our business. SEFA are so slow to respond, and they seem reluctant, even though we obtained a thumbs up from SAICA for our business plan. What now? Mark Darmons, we've just heard from the CEO of the NYDA. You should get in contact with them. And, there are other, even you can get in with the office of the Planning Commission. The initiatives are in place. We're going to take a short break. 10 o'clock, top of the hour. We'll be back with more news, so don't go away.
Well, it's Thursday, the 2nd of June, 2016. This is Newsroom on SABC News on Channel 404. Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome as we broadcast live from our Auckland Park studios in Johannesburg to the rest of the African continent. I'm Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Renee Vest, and we'll be with you until 12 o'clock. We're also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. Now, today we're focusing on entrepreneurship in South Africa. And of course, our question of the day to you is it too difficult to run and maintain a small business here in South Africa?
You can send us your comments on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom as well as on our Facebook page. But first, let's take a look at your news headlines. Today marks the deadline for the independent candidates and political parties to submit their list of candidates who will run for the August 3rd local government elections. Evidence leaders at the Clarkson Board of Inquiry into suspended Police Commissioner Ria Piega's fitness to hold office will continue with closing arguments today. And a special provincial official funeral for community leader and academic Reverend Dr. Simon Kobule. It takes place at the Utenake Indoor Sports Centre in the Eastern Cape today. Now, those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front. Very good morning to you.
Now, good morning to the both of you. Welcome back to the studio, Renee. Quite an interesting slot you did yesterday. And a hearty good morning to everybody at home as well. This is what we've got for you in the sports today.
I don't think we did our homeworks properly in those two games. We just thought maybe they'll come like all other teams.
Bafana coach Shakes Mashaba admits that his lack of planning has led to Bafana's poor performances. Makayantini is appointed as Zimbabwe's interim head coach as the cricket board makes whole-scale changes.
He won round final in Madrid, semi-final Monaco. So it's going to be interesting match for sure.
Andy Murray and Stan Wawrinka looking forward to the French Open semi-final clash. That is what we've got for you in the sports in about 20 minutes or so. Be sure to stick around for that. But for now, it's back to the main desk for the news.
Well, thank you very much, Kendall. Now, evidence leaders at the Clarkson Board of Inquiry into suspended Police Commissioner Ria Piega's fitness to hold office will continue with closing arguments today. Yesterday, the inquiry heard that the commissioner succumbed to political pressure during the violent labour unrest at Marikana's Lonmin Platinum Mine in 2012. Lawyers for injured and deceased miners in the 2012 Marikana incident, in which 34 miners died and at least 78 injured, reiterated that Piega is not fit to hold office. They told the inquiry that she failed to draw their line at the 2012 Marikana incident. The Farlam Commission findings levelled 14 allegations of misconduct against Piega. Lawyers representing miners meanwhile submitted an affidavit from AMCU President Joseph Matunjwa. Advocate Dali Mpofo accused Piega of concealing crucial evidence during her testimony at the Farlam Commission.
Now, for more on the story, we're now joined by our reporter Patricia Vasachi, who is in Centurion at the Board of Inquiry, the Clarkson Board of Inquiry. Patricia, very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis.
Have the closing arguments commenced already?
Well, Elvis, the arguments have not started yet. You would know that the time is scheduled for 10 o'clock every morning, but of course there's still other nitty-gritties that they still have to deal with behind the scenes to see how the day will be panning out. And of course, it is the second day of the closing arguments, and we expect it to be another day of immense scrutiny into the credibility, into the integrity, and the overall fitness of the the suspended police commissioner, General Ria Pierre. Yesterday, of course, we saw her coming under immense fire from both the evidence leaders and, of course, the lawyers representing the miners who were injured and, of course, arrested during the Marikana labor unrest in 2012 when we saw, of course, 34 miners being gunned down by the police. So today we expect the evidence leaders to wrap up their closing arguments, and we don't expect them to actually back off from the arguments that we heard yesterday, them putting forward to this Class and Board of Inquiry, basically highlighting that General Ria Pierre knew what she was doing, and the decision to implement the so-called tactical response on the 16th of August 2012 was actually taken on the 15th, and that they had planned to actually gun down the miners.
What can we expect today further? Do you think that it will be the final day of the closing arguments?
Well, that's too early to determine. Of course, we expect after the evidence leaders for lawyers of the miners who were killed during the Marikana protests, for them to also make representations. And we also expect the lawyers for the injured and arrested miners to also, give their final inputs. And thereafter, we'll also hear arguments into the relevance of the affidavit that was submitted yesterday on behalf of AMCU President, and that is Joseph Matunja. So it's expected to be another long day. Whether all of that will be wrapped up today, that remains to be seen. But of course, we expect it to be a very intense day, and we also expect, of course, the closing arguments from General Ria Pierre's defense team. So there you can hear already we have a whole list of activity that is set to take place here.
Patricia, thank you so much for that report, and you'll keep us updated. That was our reporter, Patricia Fasaki, in Centurion at the Class and Board of Inquiry there, so she'll keep us updated throughout the day.
Now, today marks the deadline for independent candidates and political parties to submit the list of candidates who will run for the August 3rd local government elections. The Independent Electoral Commission says more than 260 parties have registered so far. The Western Cape and the Eastern Cape have the most registered parties. The IEC said registered parties that wanted to contest the election should submit lists of their candidates before the close of business today at 5 p.m. Registration of a party to contest municipal elections requires payment of R300 and signatures of 100 registered voters. The IEC says the number of the registered independent candidates has increased significantly.
Now, for the latest on that story, the IEC deadline, we are joined by Aldrin Sampear in Pretoria. He is apparently going to give us an indication that he's also with the Chief Electoral Officer, Simon Mabolo. Aldrin, a very good morning. Before you speak to your guests, just paint us a picture as to what is happening there currently.
Well, good morning, Elvis. The expectation has been that the IEC would be receiving all the names and the different lists of candidates here at the head office, but an indication is that actually what's happening this year is that submissions are made online at the various IEC branch offices as well, and that's where the submissions are made. So no political parties currently here. And tell you what, today is crunch day. We've been trying to set up interviews with different political parties, and normally political parties are quite easy and always available for an interview, but today was a bit more difficult as they try to meet the 5 o'clock deadline, because they have to make sure that they submit all the names, all the potential candidates who will be running for the municipal elections by 5 o'clock this afternoon. And right now I'm joined by the Deputy Chief Electoral Officer, Simon Mabolo. Thank you so much, Mr. Sai, for joining us. At crunch time, indeed, is the IEC ready? How are the systems running this morning?
We are quite happy. The tension is building, the excitement is building, and there's a lot of traffic on our online system. And we hope that all parties will make the time so that they would have done everything that they need to do by 5 o'clock, so that everybody who wants to be elected into a position of councillor, they have the opportunity to do so.
And let's just quickly speak about the option that's now available to make these submissions via online instead of going through to an IEC office. How did you guys come up with that plan? And as you indicated earlier on, that it's a first on the continent.
Indeed. Our view was we needed to take advantage of the advancement in ICT. And in order to take advantage of the possibilities given by ICT, we thought, let's give political parties an opportunity to control the process because they capture at their own pace. They can verify there and there whether a candidate is qualified or not. For instance, whether the candidate is registered in the relevant municipality. Instead of having to fill out manual acceptance of nomination, the system prints for them a pre-populated acceptance of nomination, and all that is left is for the candidate to sign it. So there are all those advantages that are inherent in the online system. Furthermore, you can also make payment of the election deposit online through a payment gateway.
And how's it been going so far in terms of the names? How many names have been submitted so far? And earlier on, we were also speaking about the deadline. That come 5 o'clock and you haven't submitted your names or the potential candidates, what happened?
As at midnight last night, we had just about 35,000 people captured. They still need to be submitted formally, so parties are busy with that as we speak. And 5 o'clock, we will switch off the system. And unfortunately, if you fail to make 5 o'clock, it means you may be ready for the next election, but not for this one.
What happens in the case where you find that a potential candidate, that one of the political parties, or whether it be an independent candidate, has been submitted, is not eligible actually to run for the municipal elections?
Well, eligibility largely relates to whether you are registered in the correct municipality. So if you use the online system, you will be able to notice that instantaneously. The system will indicate that you are not registered in the municipality in which you wish to contest as a candidate. It's an important thing, and I think it's a fair requirement because you can't be a councillor in a municipality in which you are not ordinarily resident.
And let's quickly speak about the different political parties. Of course, the political parties have signed the electoral code of conduct, but what we've seen in different media reports and stories that we've covered as well at SABC News is there seems to be some tension that has also gone violent, and some cases being investigated by the police. A case in place right now is the EFF and the ANC in Mpumalanga as well as KwaZulu-Natal.
Yes, we've received objections on the side of the EFF. The Commission is seized with those objections, and furthermore, the Commission has sought an audience with the leadership of the EFF, and we hope that that meeting will be concluded soon.
What's the process when a political party has an objection, for instance, and is not happy with the conduct of a particular party, or in this case, even an independent candidate?
Well, the idea is that, or rather the scheme is that the Electoral Court is empowered by the Electoral Commission Act to adjudicate disputes relating to the violations of the Code of Conduct. So there are a number of ways. The party can approach the Electoral Court on its own initiative to say, such a party has done this following things which are contrary to the provisions of the code. So the Electoral Court will then adjudicate the matter, and if it finds evidence, then they can they can prescribe certain sanctions, such as a fine of no less than 200,000. They can order that the party be deregistered, or that a portion of their votes not be counted. So they are quite far-reaching sanctions that the Electoral Court can dispense. We obviously are also building an internal capacity to assist parties to look into these issues, and which is why we are entertaining those that came from the EFF.
Just finally, just a quick message to these different political parties, as well as those who will be contesting the municipal elections, including the independent candidates.
Our message is that elections is about the citizens of the country. Really, Let's allow them space. Let's campaign hard. Let's campaign vigorously. But as we do so, let's give the citizens of the country to shape the political future of the Republic. And they'll do so on the 3rd by casting their ballots, and in so doing, making a determination about the leadership that must govern our various municipalities.
Thank you. That's Sai Mamabulo, the Deputy Chief Electoral Officer of the IEC, and as he indicated there that 5 o'clock is the deadline. If you haven't submitted your names by 5 o'clock, unfortunately, as he puts it jokingly, that means that you're ready for the next municipal municipal elections. And we're right here at the head office of the IEC, and this is actually the place where all the online submissions will also be consolidated. And as I understand that later on this month, the IEC will also be indicating to the various political parties which candidates appear on various lists. Like, let's say, a potential candidate could appear on the list of 2 different parties, and that's an anomaly that needs to be fixed.
Eldrin Sampear, thank you so much for that report. That's our reporter there in Centurion, Eldrin Sampear. As you heard there, cut-off date is today. It's D-Day for all political parties and independent candidates.
Well, moving on to more news. The public sector plans to absorb young unemployed graduates with artisan and engineering skills into employment through leadership programs. Public Service Minister Ngwako Ramatlhodi was addressing a youth imbizo in the Eastern Cape, where the program was launched.
Mantombi Tetyana is an electrical engineering graduate from the dusty town of Dumitru. She graduated in 2009 but has not found employment since then. 7 years down the line, she has not yet abandoned her dreams of becoming an engineer. She was part of many unemployed graduates who attended the Youth Imbizo. The Buffalo City Metro Municipality will identify young people with these scarce skills and put them in a skills development program in the municipality.
About 45,000 per child to enter into some skills and then specialized skills, and that will take these kids and then put them in various municipalities, and some of them will be retained in the long term once they finish with that program, which will be for 2 years.
A task team from the department and the municipality has been set up to fast-track this process.
After 3 months, we are going to come back as a department to assess the impact this outreach has had in the community at large.
The program will also be launched in other municipalities in different parts of the country. Busiswe Jamsana, SABC News, Tanzania.
Now, here on Newsroom today, we're focusing on leadership and entrepreneurship in South Africa. And our question to you today is it too difficult to run and maintain your small businesses in South Africa? Now, we'll be going over to Elvis, who has more on this.
Yes, Renee, that's the question that we pose to you, but the latest Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, GEM, report for South Africa says that entrepreneurs in this country have declined during 2015 and 2016, and that entrepreneurial intentions in South Africa had almost halved when compared that to 6 years ago in 2010, and are 3.6 times lower than the African average. Now, that is concerning. A number of conditions have hampered entrepreneurial growth, such as government programs, research and cultural and social norms, and red tape to do business in the country. One way that South Africa could tackle rising unemployment figures is by facilitating and driving entrepreneurship. That's according to the spokesperson for the Entrepreneur of the Year competition. To talk to us about the role of entrepreneurs in a muted economy, we joined in our Cape Town studios by Kobus Engelbrecht, the spokesperson for the Entrepreneur of the Year competition, sponsored by Sanlam and business partners. A very good morning to you, Kobus, and welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Mr. Engelbrecht, what is the role of the entrepreneur in a muted economy that we do have?
Well, the role of the entrepreneur is to create more economic activity and also to create jobs. That's the role of an entrepreneur in any economy, and even so in a muted economy.
Now, the latest Global Entrepreneurship Monitor reports that South African entrepreneurs in the country have declined. How do we reverse this particular worrying trend?
Well, Elvis, unfortunately, South Africa is not a country known for entrepreneurship. It is not in our DNA, and that is not how we raise our children. So there's unfortunately no quick fix to that. We as a country, as a nation, will have to start teaching our young that entrepreneurship is a worthwhile career, just as being a government official or being employed by a corporate. And that is where the change will happen, when we as a country, as a nation, start to embrace entrepreneurship and to promote it as a worthwhile career.
Now, according to yourselves, unemployment figures and unemployment in South Africa could be tackled by facilitating and driving entrepreneurship. How do we do that?
Well, first of all, we've got to get our mindset right, as I have explained. And then we have to help young people to start businesses, because I think it's quite a daunting task to start a business. Mm-hmm. And if you are a young South African and you come out of an education system where you haven't been taught anything about business or entrepreneurship, it's even more so. Mm-hmm. You will also notice that when you read research and when you speak to other commentators, they will tell you that it is hard to get finance if you want to start a business. And they will also tell you that our educational levels, especially with regards to entrepreneurship, is not where it should be. Now, those two things work in conjunction with one another, because if I am a financier and I've got to lend money to a prospective business owner, then I don't only look at the business plan. I also look at the jockey, at who is going to drive this business plan. Mm-hmm. And if the person sitting in front of me is somebody that is clearly not up to the task to do that, then I'm not going to put my money at risk. So we've got to combine those two things with one another. We've got to help business people, young business people, by providing them with mentors. There are large numbers of business executives sitting at home, being in retirement or on early retirement, that are willing and able to assist these young people. Now, if we put those together, the mentorship with the financing, and we assist those entrepreneurs, then you will also see the take-up of entrepreneurs will increase, and the success rate of those businesses will also dramatically increase.
Now, as business partners as well as Sanlam, what are you doing to drive that focus on the entrepreneurial spirit for South Africans?
Well, what business partners and Sanlam have been doing, we're running a competition, the Entrepreneur of the Year competition. This competition is now in its 28th year. For the first 22 years, the competition was only focused on business partners' clients, but since Sanlam became one of the sponsors 6 years ago, this competition is now open to all business owners in South Africa. So the idea of the competition is to promote entrepreneurship, to take entrepreneurs, to put them on a pedestal, to show their worth and what they have achieved to South Africa, so that we can in that way encourage people to start businesses, and also obviously to take part in this competition and be rewarded and awarded as somebody who has achieved something in the world of business.
Over the last 6 years, Mr. Engelbrecht, is there case studies that indicate and give insight into the local entrepreneurs whose businesses have thrived and have been positively impacted by the competition, and what was their sort of impact on the GDP growth in the country?
Well, each and every one of the winners of the competition that I've spoken to will tell you that the prize money is not the main reason why they take part in the competition. Mm-hmm. Because the exposure they get with the competition, all the publicity and the marketing value of that is worth much more than the prize money. So that comes from the entrepreneurs themselves. I can give you an example of an entrepreneur, Mr. Tommy McGatu. He started life out as a hairdresser. He comes from Soweto. He started selling hair products. Eventually, he opened up a retail shop, and now he owns several retail shops in Kwakwa. His turnover is in the hundreds of millions. He employs a couple of hundred people. And that is the kind of impact that one entrepreneur can make in South Africa. Now imagine if we have a nation of entrepreneurs, of young people wanting to start their own business instead of starting to look for a job.
Now, the Entrepreneur of the Year competition, is it still ongoing, and can people still participate?
Yes, it is. The closing date for the 2016 competition is on the 16th, in other words, in 2 weeks' time. And to enter this competition, you can go to www.eoy.co.za, and you will find all the information and how to enter the competition.
Thank you, Mr. Engelbrecht, for your time and joining us. That was the role, talking to us about the role of the entrepreneur here in our Cape Town studios. Kobus Engelbrecht, spokesperson for the Entrepreneur of the Year competition that's sponsored by Sanlam and, of course, business partners. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back after that.
Certain choices in life lead us not to our destination. Prostitution will not.
Everything that I used to do then, it was something that I never thought of, I never dreamed of.
One bad choice in life led her to another.
Most of my clients, they used to ask me a question, what am I doing in that industry?
Haunted her until she changed her life.
I used to pray that, Lord, if you can deliver me from these drugs, I promise you that I will for the rest of my life.
She has since found peace and is serving her community.
We'll try by all means to spend time with all of our kids.
Join your host, Buleng Mulabati, every Friday at 17:30.
Good morning, welcome back. I'm Kendall Makhamat and I've got your sports on Newsroom, time being 10:28. Now, top story for this bulletin is about cricket, where the four-person independent panel convened to review South Africa's national cricket team's performances last season has been disbanded. The commission included Cricket South Africa's head of HR, Don Mukhobo, former Test cricketer Adam Bacher, sports physiologist Ross Tucker, and World Cup winning Springbok captain Francois Pienaar. Now, this panel was mandated to interrogate the Proteas' recent poor performances. This is where they lost back-to-back series to India and England, as well as the national under-19 side who failed to defend their World Cup title. The performances of Russell Domingo, South Africa's coach, were also to be looked at. According to sources, the panel held preliminary meetings at the end of April and discussed the scope and the process of their review, which included identifying timeframes and cost. This all came to an end when the panel realized that they could neither agree on terms, timeframes, the scope, or the processes to be followed. Cricket South Africa has declined to comment at this stage while they await an update from the chairperson of the review committee. Now, staying with cricket news, Zimbabwe cricket has made sweeping changes ahead of its limited over series against India. Coach Dave Watmore and skipper Hamilton Masakadza were sacked, while former South African fast bowler Makhaya Ntini and Graham Creamer they were named as interim coach and captain of the side, respectively. Now, Zimbabwe cricket cited the team's poor performances at the ICC World T20 as the reasons for sacking Watmore and Masakadza. Zimbabwe failed to make it out of the preliminary stage in the tournament. Watmore, who was handed a 4-year contract in April last year, will now be replaced by bowling coach Ntini on an interim basis. Zimbabwe has also signed former South African all-rounder Lance Klusener as the batting coach for 2 years. They play India in 3 one-day internationals and as many T20 internationals starting on June the 11th at the Harare Sports Club. Moving on to other sport and news, defending French Open champion Stanislav Wawrinka of Switzerland says his semi-final clash against second-seeded Brit Andy Murray on Friday will be a great challenge. Murray defeated 9th-seeded local hero Richard Gasquet in 4 sets in a quarter-final match in Paris on Wednesday. Third-seed Wawrinka, meanwhile, disposed of Spaniard Albert Ramos Vinolas in straight sets.
Much was expected from the clash between Murray and the informed Frenchman. Initially, Gasquet did not disappoint. He delighted the French crowd when he clinched the first set 7-5.
He wins 5 games in a row.
But, as usual, Murray wasn't done yet. The Scotsman fought back to win the next 3 7-6, 6-love, 6-2 to reach the last 4 in Paris for the 4th time. Murray, however, admits that Wawrinka will be another ball game altogether.
Obviously won the tournament last week and has been playing better with each match here, so it'll be obviously very tough. He plays well on that court, so I'll have to play great tennis to beat him.
Wawrinka stormed into the semi-finals courtesy of a solid victory over Ramos Vinoyas. Despite getting off to a slow start in the opening rounds, the Swiss raced past the Spaniard 6-2, 6-1, 7-6 and is relishing the opportunity to play the world number 2.
He improved a lot. He's playing so well, especially again if you look this year. He won Rome, final in Madrid, semi-final Monaco. So it's going to be interesting match for sure.
In the women's draw, Australian Samantha Stosa advanced to the semi-finals following a tense victory over Bulgarian Svetlana Peronkova. The 21st seed beat Peronkova, who earlier ousted second seed Agnieszka Radwanska 6-4, 7-6. Stosa will face number 4 Garbine Muguruza next. Muguruza ended the dream run of American Shelby Rogers. The Spaniard reached her first semi-final at Roland Garros with a 7-5, 6-3 win. Liesl Zankel, SABC News.
Now on to rugby news, where the application for the final liquidation of the Eastern Province Rugby Union has again been postponed, this time to the 4th of August. This after the Eastern Cape High Court in Port Elizabeth granted the liquidators more time to study the South African Rugby Union business rescue plan. Rugby fundi Tando Manana spoke to Tabiso Tole on Sports Live last night about the reasons for the postponement.
The base of the postponement then yesterday was that there was this company, this UK-based company, not much is known about. Yeah. What we all know, if you go on the website, there is the logo of the Springboks that is there, but whether it's a bogus company or not, it remains to be seen. However, the judge that was presiding over the matter, Judge Dumitru, then postponed the matter to the 4th of August, and also it gave this time around, the applicants, which is all the joint players that have filed for the liquidation, an opportunity then to investigate where the money is coming from, if the money is there, if they want the money as well. So, and also you've got to understand that when they come, they'll file in their papers 28th of June. Eastern Province Kings will be giving very limited time in order for them to reply to those facts. If not, then the 4th of August, what you'll find then is the judge will decide. If the money is not put forward or they haven't seen the business rescue plan as per the say or the media reports, then unfortunately for EP Rugby, it will have to be liquidated, and meaning that there will no longer be rugby in Port Elizabeth.
Bafana coach Shakes Mashaba has admitted for the first time that lack of proper planning for the opposition has landed his team in trouble. South Africa are on the brink of missing out on qualifying for next year's AFCON in Gabon due to lack of adequate information they had on their opponents in previous matches.
Reality is now hitting hard on Bafana's mentor. Mashaba's lack of interest in doing proper research ahead of crucial matches has placed the team in a precarious position. But this time, Mashaba has been forced to make a U-turn. He has already watched a recording of a recent international friendly between Gambia and COSAFA neighbors Zambia in Bakau that ended goalless.
We always say we killed ourselves in the first 2 games. I don't think we did our homeworks properly in those 2 games. We just thought maybe they will come like all other teams. But I think we are ready for the next coming competitions, and I think if you look at the base for selection now that we have, we're definitely on course.
Playing on the road always has its own challenges, but most of the players in the current squad have the much-needed experience of playing in harsh conditions.
I think we've got a group of players that have been playing in this competition, the CAF competition, and we've also been in the Champions League and the CAF Confederation Cup. So we're familiar with the situation and we know what to expect, so we're not going to be caught by surprise. And most of the guys who are in the team, they've been there.
Play away, but we've shown over the past few years that we can go away and get victories. We beat Congo away, we beat Sudan away in the last campaign, so we know that we can definitely go to Gambia and get the result that we want.
The first leg encounter in Durban ended goalless, but playing at home this time, Mashaba expects the ultra-defensive Gambians to come out of their shell and play some attacking football. Sfiso Ramara, SABC News, Soweto.
Now, for a little bit of sad news to finish off this bulletin, the memorial service of the late Ted Dumitru will be held today in Johannesburg at the Ellis Park Arena. The service to the former Bafana mentor will be open to the public and is scheduled to begin at 12 midday. Now, as you'll know, the 76-year-old collapsed in Johannesburg in a mall on the 26th of May after suffering a heart attack. Dumitru started his coaching career back in his native Romania in 1964. Here in South Africa, he coached the big three franchises, that's Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns and Orlando Pirates. In the process, he won numerous trophies, the league title, MTN 8, Nedbank Cup, Telkom Charity Cup, Rothmans Cup, as well as the Telkom Knockout. He's also been at the helm of several national teams, Swaziland, Namibia and Zambia. In 2006, he joined Bafana, taking the team to the Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt. Now, we will be crossing in our later bulletin to the venue of that memorial service, and we'll be hoping to touch base with Sfiso Ramar. In the meantime, this is where we leave it for the sports bulletin. We take a short break. Evan Janssen is standing by with more news and analysis. Remember, you're watching Newsroom.
One other person has been shot dead and another is in a critical condition in hospital.
The CRL has laid charges against controversial televangelist Paseka Mutsoneng.
More than 1.3 million South Africans have been added in the past two registration weekends.
The International Monetary Fund warns that policy uncertainty could dampen economic growth in South Africa.
And all eyes are on the new Bok coach, Alistair Coetzee, his challenge to keep everyone in the country happy.
Hello again, you're still with Newsroom here on SABC News. Now, the number of South Africans interested in starting up businesses has halved over the past 5 years. This, according to the report compiled by the Global Entrepreneurial Monitor. Therefore, we ask you this question on screen. Among the reasons stated for the decline is unprofitability, monopolies, government policies, and problems in accessing finance to sustain these businesses. Now, a little bit earlier this morning, the Minister of Small Business Development, Lindiwe Zulu, gave us an overview of the report.
We would like to welcome the report, and we would like to say that we will need to also engage with Global Entrepreneurship Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. We have to engage with them, because the reason why you would have a report like this is because you need to be able to know what exactly is happening, what are the causes of the things that you've just spoken about, but more than anything else is about what are your solutions to it. So we welcome the report because it gives us an eye view of where entrepreneurship is in South Africa. And in any case, we've also been talking about the fact that entrepreneurship in South Africa is lagging behind in comparison to the majority of countries, particularly in the African continent.
One of the things that stand out mentioned is monopolies. How do you see this play out in the South African picture? Is there a scenario where some of the monopolies that we see are making it difficult for small businesses not only to start up but to survive?
Yes, absolutely. That is one of the reasons why we are engaging with big business. That's why, from the point of view of the president, who has now called all big business together to have the conversation, because monopoly is a problem. Monopoly just closes the doors in most instances. Monopoly even shuts out small businesses, even in the township. You can see that the malls are creeping into, in fact, many of them are in the townships already.
Yeah.
And when we look at who is in the mall, you realize that it's the usual big companies, and the smaller companies cannot afford to pay rent there. They cannot just afford to be in that space. So we need to have that engagement. That is why government, for instance, has got a program on township development and rural development, because we're looking at what is it that we can maintain and sustain for small and medium enterprises. But that's one element of it from a point of view of smaller businesses. You've got small and medium enterprises. Who supplies, for instance, I just want to be very practical.
Yeah.
Who supplies what, for instance, to Toyota? When Toyota is assembling a car, who supplies that?
Yeah.
In the main, you get that big business are the ones that are producing all the parts, when some of the parts can be produced by medium enterprises. And that, when you give that opportunity to the enterprises, you help them to be innovative, you help them to even employ more people. So we're looking at how can we work together in making sure that we do what other countries, developed countries, are doing. Small and medium enterprises are the backbone of developed countries. Why can't we do the same in South Africa?
The concern, I think, that you must also be concerned about is that when this report talks to who are the most affected, young black people, we're in the middle of Youth Month, and we know that government have a whole variety of youth programs, summits and so forth that's being put forward. But young black people are most affected, and women. Surely that must be a concern to you.
It always will be a concern, especially when we look at the fact that the majority of people who are unemployed are in the category of youth, and the fact that we've got the youth bulge, and the fact that we also have young people who are coming out of school or universities or college and are unable to get jobs. We're saying to young people today, they don't necessarily have to be looking for jobs. They can also begin to look at what is it that they can do, and we are here as the Department of Small Business Development. We've got programs that are specifically tailored towards young people, but it's not only just about our department. We've got the entire government beginning to look at programs that are tailored to supporting small and medium enterprises, but supporting youth in particular. Young people today think that the best thing to do is to go to university. They don't necessarily all have to go to university, because universities can't absorb everyone. There are technical colleges, and so the Department of Small Business Development is working with what we call TVET colleges, and would like to encourage them to go to the TVET colleges, because whether you're talking about skills today, the skills that are necessary today, because that's another problem. You have others going in and studying something that's not necessarily needed in the economy of today. So we're working with TVET colleges to make sure that young people get the skills and they can go out and start their own businesses.
Now, the National Youth Development Agency, in partnership with the Department of Arts and Culture, launched their annual Youth Month program under the theme, Youth Moving South Africa Forward. That was yesterday. The event, of course, to commemorate the 40 years of the 40th year of the 1976 students' uprising against the apartheid state then. Now, back then, young people were seen as a threat. Today, the youth in South Africa face different challenges, and this month, well, the focus will be on addressing those. Earlier, we were joined by the Deputy Minister for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, as well as Administration, Mr. Puti Manamela.
We're obviously trying to connect between the generation 40 years ago and today. The big issues at the time was, how do we transform the classroom? How do we ensure that there's quality basic education for the millions of South Africans? And also, how do we ensure that there's, learning and teaching that takes place? But what we said, for instance, yesterday was that young people at the time were not listened to. All that the apartheid government did was to bring in shamboks, put them into line and all of that. And intention of the education system was to ensure that they could read as much as possible so that they can say, yeah, bus, near bus, and move this here and there. But today, we see a completely transformed, schooling system. I'm certain, the people like Hector Peterson would not have imagined a multiracial classroom in South Africa as instructed by the Constitutional Court, earlier in the month. They would not have imagined that 10 million school-going kids out of 12 million are on a government feeding scheme. They would not have imagined that today close to 1 million young black South Africans are going to university, and 700,000 of those are going to an FET college. And of course, there are challenges. I mean, we are obviously not oblivious to those. We're not in denial that although there's been progress made, there are challenges that we need to attend to. Some of those include the fact that there's deepening inequalities, there's high unemployment, particularly amongst young people. There's a low level, as you have just been discussing with the Minister of Small Business Development, low level appetite amongst young people to pursue entrepreneurship. And probably also because that's not linked to a skill. There's land hunger amongst particularly young people. So at a broader level there is, but it's even worse when it comes to young people. So those are some of the challenges that, we will be confronting, and we have been confronting. I mean, the main message and theme for this year's Youth Month is how do we open up economic opportunities for young people? How do we empower them with information? Because what we've realized, working together with government communications, is that the biggest challenge amongst young people is access to information of available opportunities in both the public and private sector. When young people believe government is doing nothing, but whereas on the other hand, there is a package of interventions that have been put into place in order to address the needs, interests, and aspirations of young people. I'm not saying that they're enough, but at least those which are available, we are going all out throughout this whole year to make sure that those opportunities are available. You'll be seeing more and more of not only government deputy ministers, but also government agencies that would be reaching out to communities saying this is what is available for young people. The president instructed us to ensure, as the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, that every government department, every sphere of government must prioritize youth and the challenges that young people are confronted with.
Mr. Minister, in the medium term, you are driving a National Youth Policy 2020 process. Just give us a quick update. Where are you?
Look, we are now, excitingly at a stage where we're implementing the youth policy. It's now been integrated into the broader government plan. So every government department is expected to report on what they are doing with regards to the 5 priority areas of the youth, of the National Youth Policy. That is education, economic inclusion, national cohesion, dealing with substance and alcohol abuse, and also ensuring that we optimize youth development institutions. We are at an advanced stage of amending the NYDA Act. We'll be taking that to both Cabinet and Parliament and for public consultations to ensure that we institutionalize youth development. As is now, we are working on integrating the National Youth Policy section on economic inclusion into the President and government's 9-point plan. And I'm excited that we had set ourselves a year ago when the minister signed the National Youth Policy into law. We had said to ourselves, we are going to be pushing youth entrepreneurship, as a key program, encouraging young people to take up, small businesses, seeing themselves not as seekers of jobs, but as creators of jobs. Today, you know, the NYDA has converted its loan into grant in order to, you know, increase uptake. We are implementing a 2.7 billion rand youth fund with the IDC and with SIFA, which will encourage, you know, youth entrepreneurship. We have launched, I think, one of the most successful youth business mentorship program with Mara Mentor. I mean, more than 350,000 young people are being mentored on business. And I'm not even going into the details around, you know, the number of young people who go to NYDA offices for that purpose. So that's that in terms of entrepreneurship. We you know, this morning as I leave, I'm going into a workshop of experts so that we look at how are we going to roll out the National Youth Service. 1 million young people, that's our target in, I mean, up to 2020. It's a global phenomena. It is something that South Africa should not be left out of. And I think finally we are beginning to see action in terms of, you know, some of the challenges and bottlenecks we've seen in, you know, in relation to access to FET. The minister earlier of small business development spoke about how young people want to go to universities. But I think we're beginning to see a turnaround. 13,000 annually artisans are being churned out, you know, out of FET colleges. And we're calling on the private sector to give FET graduates experiential training. That will help in terms of them getting the skills they require, but it also help to build entrepreneurship and also to reduce, you know, unemployment. And I think, you know, yes, there have been incidents where young people were involved into, you know, burning of schools, as we've seen in the north, as we've seen in Fort Hare, as we've seen in some instances. But those are isolated incidents. There are young people who are, you know, victims of substance and drugs abuse. Those are isolated. The majority of young people are saying no to drugs, no to alcohol. They're saying those who are burning schools are burning our future. They do not represent us. And I think that we should stop, you know, putting young people into one basket as the so-called lost generation, as those who are not interested in their future. The majority of young people looks, you know, very badly at, you know, political leaders who decides, you know, to break public institutions like Parliament. They're saying not in our name. And that's the central message which we'll be sending out this Youth Month.
Yeah. June is Youth Month, and the 16th of June is Youth Day here in South Africa, where we celebrate, well, the fight of young people against the then apartheid regime, but also creating opportunities for young people in the South Africa of today. Let's take a look now at the front pages from around the continent. We'll start in Lesotho this morning. The Times there reports that Land Administration Authority Director, Legal and Registry Service, Tseliso Makapela, has been suspended pending a disciplinary hearing next week for gross misconduct, amongst other alleged offences. Then in Namibia, the Namibian says the Ministry of Public Enterprises has decided to staff its corporate advisory reform unit with experts who will earn salaries considered too high for the civil service to reform the country's ailing public enterprises. Finally, we're in Swaziland, where the Observer reports that MultiChoice Swaziland is ready to rescue illegal SABC viewers that will feel the wrath of the Swaziland Communications Commission for illegally watching the South African public broadcaster. Yes, everybody wants to watch the SABC, but it seems like nobody wants to pay. Why do you pay other broadcasters, but you don't want to pay the SABC? Pay. We bring a good service. Anyhow, let's go to Phil for a weather update.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eben. Well, let's take a look at what's going on in terms of your weather. For now, what we're expecting is just a little bit of cloud cover and rainfall over Southern Africa's far eastern areas there. As you can see, it's really concentrated over the southern parts of Mozambique. And other than that, we're just seeing a clear day to a partly cloudy day throughout the rest of South Africa. A very, very small amount of rainfall was forecast through South Africa's southwestern coastline here, but really not going to affect your day too much whatsoever. The rest of Southern Africa into tomorrow remaining clear once again. We're going to see that all the way throughout the northern parts of Southern Africa. Once again, though, around the Maputo area, expecting isolated showers and thunder showers. As we said, though, isolated showers still forecast for that southern region of South Africa there, and that, of course, due to a low pressure system passing by. That pressure system really not affecting our temperatures too much. A 33-degree maximum forecast for Port Elizabeth and Cape Town at about a 17-degree maximum. It is going to be a little bit more mild there in Cape Town, of course, but other than that, the rest of Southern Africa expecting a beautifully warm day with temperatures in general through the mid-20s. In terms of your rainfall as we move further north, really most of it is concentrated in the northern parts of Central Africa. There, that of course means that it's further north from Congo-Brazzaville there. Isolated to scattered showers really forecast for the western interior, and as we move through the day, it's going to continue around Bangui and the rest of the interior. Once again for tomorrow, expecting isolated to scattered showers in the same areas there, with temperatures nice and warm, continuing around the mid to lower 30s for the most part, seeing some into the higher 20s, but in general still a warm day forecast throughout Central Africa. Now, moving further north, you can see a very, very warm band through the entire interior there. That's the result of a higher pressure system, and it's going to bring in clear conditions throughout most of North Africa. And indeed, into tomorrow, we're expecting just a little bit of rainfall as a result of a slightly lower pressure system moving through the far northern regions of Africa as well. In terms of your temperatures, this is what we're seeing. It is going to be very, very hot, with most temperatures in the interior reaching above the 40-degree mark. And that extends all the way towards Luxor, Cairo peaking at 41 degrees. We're even seeing temperatures all the way up at 43 degrees in Mecca, Riyadh in the Middle East, also at 43 degrees Celsius. Very, very hot conditions there, of course. Rainfall forecast as we look towards West Africa's southern coastline through today. Of course, as we move through the day, we're going to see that intensifying and growing in towards the interior here, but lower pressure systems continuing to affect the area. Higher pressure systems, though, meaning it's going to be a drier one in the interior and a very warm one as well. As we take a look at your temperatures there, Niamey peaks at 43 degrees, Lagos at 31 degrees, expecting isolated to scattered showers as we saw, and of course those warm conditions continue throughout the entire day. This is where we leave your weather for now. Do stay tuned though, lots more coming up.
What's wrong with Triple M? What is illegal here? Who is being defrauded here, Trevor?
It is about the best interest of the citizens of this country.
But the citizens are the ones who are playing, who are members or participants in this. If you put in 15,000 rand, after 12 months you get 1.2 million rands. I mean, who wouldn't go for this?
Watch Question Time with me, Mpho Tsedu, Monday to Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on the SABC News Channel.
The cotton field story is being told through patchwork by artists to celebrate the diaspora in America.
Vitally important in telling the stories of what is happening in the refugee crisis, migration, with questions of immigration, and I believe I, as an artist, have a moral obligation to tell these stories.
It's through paper, brush, and paint that the different faces of women are reflected by this prolific painter.
Women face a lot of challenges, discrimination, sexism, and a lot of other negative. In my paintings, I try to send a different message.
Place of the G-Men and Father Huddleston's mission. Place of Balanski's and the Odin cinema, and let's never...
Join Refilwe for that 1 hour weekly dose of arts and entertainment news every Saturday at 12.
There are no permanent enemies or friends in politics.
I agree with Professor Sieto fully.
Do people still preserve the meaning?
They have no clue what it meant to be black under apartheid.
Acting Police Commissioner Phahlane dropped a bombshell in Parliament this week when he suggested there could be a possible cover-up. What do you think of this story? What kind of problems were those, Vu, if I can just get in there quickly?
Every corner or sphere of our lives has become a site of struggle.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News Channel.
It's 1100 hours on Thursday, the 2nd of June 2016. This is Newsroom on SABC News, Channel 404, Jumbo Africa. A very warm welcome to the final hour as we broadcast live from Auckland Park here in Johannesburg to the rest of the African continent. I'm Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Renee Vest, and we will be with you for the last hour of the show. We are streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. Now today we've been focusing on business and entrepreneurship in South Africa. And our question of the day that we're asking you is it too difficult to run and maintain a small business in South Africa?
That's the question we pose to you. You can send us your comments on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom as well as on our Facebook page. But first, let's take a look at your news headlines. Today marks the deadline for independent candidates and political parties to submit their list of candidates who will run for the August 3rd local government elections. Evidence leaders at the Clausen Board of Inquiry into suspended Police Commissioner Ria Piega's fitness to hold office will continue with closing arguments today. And a special provincial funeral for community leader and academic Reverend Dr. Simon Kabule. Those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front. A very good morning once again, Kendall.
Now, good morning to the both of you. A lot happening on the sports front. We're looking forward to a really busy weekend, but even having said that, we're already in a busy weekend. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports today.
I don't think we did our homeworks properly in those two games. We just thought maybe they will come like all other teams.
Bafana coach Shakes Mashaba admits that his lack of planning has led to Bafana's poor performances. And Makayantini is appointed as Zimbabwe's interim head coach as their cricket board makes whole-scale changes.
He won Rome, final in Madrid, semi-final Monaco. So it's going to be interesting match for sure.
Andy Murray and Stan Wawrinka are both looking forward to the French Open semi-final clash. We'll also be crossing live to Swiss Ramara, who's at Ted Dumitru's memorial service out at Ellis Park Arena. That's all about 11:30 or so. But for now, it's back to the main desk for the news.
Thank you very much, Kendall. The University of California in Los Angeles has confirmed that an attack on its campus was a murder-suicide. Los Angeles police chief told reporters that the attacker turned the gun on himself after shooting another man. Numerous police officers and security personnel were deployed on the campus shortly after yesterday's shooting. Classes at the university were cancelled for the rest of Wednesday, but are expected to resume today except for the engineering school where the death occurred. The shooting took place in a small office in the engineering building. The university student body president, Michael Skiles, identified Professor William S. Klug as the individual who was slain. According to the university's website, Klug is a professor of mechanical and aerospace engineering. The school, located on the west side of Los Angeles, is a flagship of the University of California system. It has about 43,000 students. Now, today marks the deadline for independent candidates and political parties to submit the list of candidates who will run for the August 3rd local government elections. The Independent Electoral Commission says more than 260 parties have registered so far. The Western Cape and the Eastern Cape have the most registered parties. The IEC said registered parties that wanted to contest the election should submit lists of their candidates before the close of business today at 5 p.m. Registration of a party to contest municipal elections required payment of R300 and signatures of 100 registered voters. The IEC says the number of registered independent candidates has increased significantly.
Well, now for more on the story, on the IEC deadline, we are joined by Aldrin Simpia, our reporter. He is in Pretoria. A very good morning once again, Aldrin. Is there any development since the last time we talked?
Well, good morning, Elvis. Yes, we continue our coverage of the final day of registrations here at the IEC headquarters, but this is not the place where political parties will be submitting the list of candidates who will be contesting the municipal elections. Those lists are submitted online, and then you can go to the various IEC branches across the country, whether you're independent candidates or you're contesting as a political party. This is, though, the area where all the online submissions will be consolidated. And I was speaking earlier on to the IEC spokesperson, Kate Bapela, and she was saying that everything has been set up and the calls been coming through and the phones have been ringing right through. So all the people are up there consolidating all the information coming through from the various branches of the IEC across the country. Right now I'm joined by COPE's Dennis Bloem. COPE, Dennis Bloem, it has been hectic this morning. You've been saying that you've been running around.
Thank you very much. It's very, very hectic. I can tell you that for the past 2 days, I never had a nice sleep because my phone was ringing for each and every from all the provinces. But we are on track. I can assure you that this time we won't be the last party to register to vote. We are on track.
I was speaking earlier on to the deputy CEO of the IEC, and I was saying that if you try to submit after 5 o'clock this afternoon, that would mean that you're ready for the next elections.
Well, we will not be that party. Maybe some other party, because COPE is really on track and we are ready for this election. We are very excited that we are at least this time ready to move.
I know that COPE will be having a press conference later on this afternoon, just spelling out all the difficulties you've had and how the system has been running so far. But let's quickly look at the number of wards that COPE will be contesting, as well as municipalities.
Well, we are going to contest in all the 9 provinces. But we are not going to contest in each and every ward. We have decided to field our people in strategic wards. But all the metros, we are going to go for it. And we are definitely sure that this time we are well prepared.
And how do you guys come to a conclusion that this is the type of ward that COPE seems quite confident that it could win, and this is the metro that you have already indicated that you'll be running for all the metros, but this is the type of municipality that we believe that COPE will be doing well in as well?
Well, over the time we have done campaigning and our branches and what we have observed which one is more stronger than the other, like in the Free State, like in Limpopo, like in the Northern Cape, Eastern Cape. We know exactly where are we strong, where are we weak, because over time we went across the country and assess those type of things.
One can also shy away from the possibility that COPE could be having supporters in each and every metro, or in each and every municipality, each and every ward, even though you don't have as great support as you have probably in another ward. What happens to your members and supporters in that particular ward? What's your message to them?
Well, that is a very serious concern, and you are 100% right. But we are saying to our members, you must decide on each and every opposition party, that because we are working with the opposition parties, all the opposition parties, our members, we are encouraging our members, don't stay away from the voting booth, but decide on which party you are going to vote for, because it's very important that each and every vote must count, and we must support. Where we don't have a candidate, go and support any opposition party that we work with. We are working with all the opposition parties.
Okay, thank you. Let's bring in Voter here. Voter Wessels from the Freedom Front Plus, the election campaign head. Is that a situation that you guys face as well as the Freedom Front Plus? You're not contesting all the wards?
No. You must understand the system. We have a mixed proportional system, and when a voter votes on 2 of the ballot papers. A voter will get, in a normal local municipality, 3 ballot papers. You will get a ward ballot paper, a proportional ballot paper where you vote for the party, and then a third for the district municipality, and that's not the case in a metro. All those votes, the ward and the PR votes, are counted together to work out your proportional representation. So where we contest in a municipality, we contest all wards, even there where we do not have the potential to win. Because a voter must not vote for a party that he agrees with, that he wants to represent him in the council. And then it's not about can this person win the ward, it's about that vote is counted together. It's you get 2 votes for a proportional candidate. And that works out your percentage that you get seats in, and your views are then as voter represented. So the system must be understood, and I think a lot of voters out there, and even political parties, do not understand the system and how the calculation of seats work. So it's extremely important, and that's why we contest. Where we contest in the municipality, we contest all wards. So that the voter can vote for us on both ballot papers and get himself represented with a proportional representative in council.
What happens in wards or municipalities where the Freedom Front Plus is not contesting? Because, as I put it to Cope as well, you can't shy away from the possibility that the Freedom Front Plus might have support in a municipality where it won't be contesting the elections.
Yeah. There's 1 or 2 or very few municipalities in the country that we are not contesting. We are contesting in most municipalities throughout all 9 provinces. There where we do not have representation, it is unfortunate, and we then also, as Mr. Bloom said, also call on our supporters to, in this election, vote for opposition party. It's unfortunate that we cannot. It is a municipal election. It's very difficult to get a candidate everywhere and to contest everywhere. But there's very few where that is the situation. In most district municipalities, local municipalities, all the metros, we are contesting, and then in all the wards in those municipalities.
And voters, just quickly before I let you go, early on we were speaking about the IEC's online system. A lot of applause, because this is the first time that such a system is being used, not only in the country but also the continent. But you guys have experienced some glitches here and there.
Yeah, we were the very first political party nationally to start using the system and to start uploading it. Once it went live, we were the first party on it. So we worked out our timeframes quite well. But we are in quite a catchy situation at the moment. Even as we started so early, there was a lot of glitches on the system, documents that weren't accepted, documents that were thrown off, system that went down a few times. Last night the system was down. So there is a few problems, but we do know it's a first time, and it is a move in a positive direction. It makes it much easier for political parties to submit and to have control over. Because you know that there's been not with the Freedom Front Plus, but with other opposition parties especially, and even with the ruling party, you had situations where a branch was entrusted with the handing in of nominations in a certain municipality, and then lists were changed, and you had a lot of situations in 2011 with a lot of parties in that situation. This minimizes that. It centralizes your nomination process and makes it much easier for you to have control and to see to it, to oversee the whole process and to see that you have candidates in all wards and the correct candidates. But the system do have glitches. It's the first time. We are in constant communication with the IEC, and that's where we are currently. Yeah.
In case you are disadvantaged by the system, that you don't meet the deadline, will you be appealing to the IEC to open another process?
Well, we've sorted out most of the problems. All our candidates and all our proportional lists for district and for metros and local have been already submitted. It's only supporting documentation, like ID documents, that's not accepted by the system. Now we do have the option to go and hand that in at IEC offices manually up until the 20th of June. So the deadline for that is not this afternoon. The nomination should just have occurred and the person should be on the system. The payment should have been made. It's a lot of money. People must also take that into account. You look at places like the Northern Cape, where it's near 60,000 rand to contest all the municipalities where we are contesting, and it's a lot of money nationally to spend. on all the deposits, but that has been done, and if that's done, you are contesting, your names will be on the ballot paper. We have interesting other problems, like, for instance, the National Population Register that differs from Home Affairs, from ID books. You have a candidate that got married more than 10 years ago. Her married name is on her ID book, but on the National Population Register, it's still a maiden name, and that name will appear on the ballot paper. And that's the problems that we can still sort out and that we will appeal on, because that can disadvantage candidates that are known by their names, and the name is on the poster, but the name on the ballot paper differs. So that's the nitty-gritty that we are sorting out, yeah.
Okay, then thank you. All the best, voter. That is a voter wrestles from the Freedom Front Plus, indicating that they have been experiencing some glitches within the system as they try to register the candidates. And as we've been indicating, that the IEC did say that 5 o'clock this afternoon is the deadline. If you did not make the deadline, unfortunately, you can't contest for the municipal elections. And later on, we'll have another update from the IEC, somebody from one of the officials here at the IEC's head office, about the glitches that they've been experiencing, as well as an update about how many people have registered so far and how many independent candidates. Elvis, it's back to you in studio.
Aldrin Sampier in Pretoria and Centurion. He'll keep us updated.
Community leader and academic Reverend Dr. Simon Ngubule will today be laid to rest at Uitenhage in the Eastern Cape. Ngubule died in Port Elizabeth Hospital last week after a short illness. He was 88 years old. He has been accorded a special provincial official funeral for his immense contribution in education, liberation struggle, community building and religion. Dr. Ngubule was awarded the Order of Luthuli in silver by the President in April in recognition of his excellent contribution to the liberation struggle and to the field of education. Earlier this week, President Jacob Zuma said he is saddened by the death of one of the country's leading academics. Flags will be flown at half-mast in the province for today's funeral.
Now for an update on the official provincial funeral of Reverend Dr. Simon Ngubule, who's currently underway at Uitenhage's Indoor Sports Centre in the Eastern Cape. We are joined by our reporter there, Lerato Tipa. Lerato, once again, good morning. Can you give us an update and the developments
Well,
there?
a very good morning. We're broadcasting live from the Indoor Sports Centre in Uitenhage for the official, what has been called not a funeral, but a thanksgiving to remember the life and legacy of Reverend Dr. Simon Ngubule. 3 speeches really standing out this morning. The Vice-Chancellor, Susan Mabizela, said, hailed him as an inspirational leader who put the needs of others before himself. Eastern Cape Puma Muswale saying that the leaders and students of the time of Ngubule would never vandalize buildings, would never burn public properties, but instead would be leaders that try to seek solutions. Then, of course, the humorous Archbishop Desmond Tutu also took the stage and really said that one thing he'd learned from the bishop and from the doctor was how to live a life of legacy, how to make the most of every situation, and also just sharing some humorous moments he had with the doctor while he was still alive. But to the community of Uitenhage, he was known as Daddy, a man who strived to put the needs of others before himself. And to his family, he was Daddy, the father, who taught them important family values that now carry them to the next generation. Joining me this morning is his grandson, Buyile Ngubule. Tell us about the legacy that his father leaves behind and what kind of legacy they now as a family take forward now that he has passed. Good morning, sir. Earlier on, you were just talking to me about the kind of values your grandfather has left behind, that you really instilled family values. What core values do you think that he has left behind for you as a family?
Good morning and thanks, and good morning to the viewers. Well, Daddy, one, he's taught us humility, respect. Those were the key things that he always emphasized to us as family members. And as a grandfather, a father, a brother, he was a very kind man, a man who believed in peace, first in family, and he also believed that before the family there is God, and after God your family comes first, obviously then the community. A man who was very, very passionate about the education and the upliftment of the black people in particular. about not necessarily only black people, but was very passionate about the upliftment of the entire community of South Africa. As a family, we have lost a father, a brother, an advisor. I'm short of words to express myself on what this passing away Daddy means to us as a family. But as believers, we have to accept, and we know where he is now. He's resting in peace and is quite happy to see some of his work that he has done and the fruits of his work. On behalf of the family, I'd like to say this in Xhosa. Ambakashe kwambe khawuta olomi uqatso lakho ulifezile. Thank you.
Well, that was the grandson of the late Dr. Reverend Ngulube, saying that the one thing that his grandfather did teach him is humility, how to pride your family above everything else, and like he said, putting God first above all, really giving a fitting tribute to his grandfather, saying that although he's passed on, he leaves tangible legacy, that when you put God first and then when you put your family first, you see the results in the people that come after you. So from us, Dispatch in studio, we'll link up again a bit later as the funeral progresses.
That's our reporter, Marato Tipa, at the funeral. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back after that.
How does this extreme heat affect basic conditions of living?
Food spoils more readily, and the risk of food poisoning outbreaks or food poisoning in a household.
Should we experience another heat wave soon, and it's coming?
First sign is always thirst. Thirst is a sign that already your body started to be dehydrated, and that's a very early sign that most people will be able to sort of pay attention to and then act on. That doesn't warrant any serious medical attention. But the minute that you start to feel slightly nauseous, that you start to feel dizzy, that's a sign that you need to stop what you're doing, get out of the sun, get into a cool area, slow down your intensity, get hydrated, cool down.
Join Dr. Sello Mutawung every Saturday from 9 till 10 in the morning.
International Children's Day was observed yesterday. The World Conference for the Well-Being of Children in Geneva, Switzerland, proclaimed June the 1st as International Children's Day in 1925 to draw attention to children's issues. The similar Universal Children's Day falls on the 20th of November 2016, that's this year. National Children's Days are recognized on various days in many places around the world. Now, to honor children globally, SABC reporter Gillian Pillay went out to Mpumalanga to check on a rape case involving a 9-year-old in Nkomazi, Mpumalanga, that has been dragging on for 3 years. To talk about the case, Newsroom interviewed Vicentia Dlamini Ngobese from Women and Men Against Child Abuse.
I think everyone is just, looking at International Children's Day as a celebratory day, but unfortunately that's not the reality of our children in South Africa, especially those that are falling victims of child abuse. So we would like to see, issues around child abuse taken seriously, especially those service providers. I'm talking about your police, your prosecutors, your judiciary, everybody that's entrusted with ensuring that children's safety is upheld. But unfortunately, the reality is just so sad.
Is it then your view that Child Protection Week is just another podium event?
Exactly, because after this week, what happens? We are having children that are going through the court, exactly the case in Boschfontein court for 18 times being postponed. This is the reality, and it's just so frustrating when you know that people are there to ensure that, these injustices are dealt with, but you find children falling, through in the justice system, and also becoming secondary victimized. And it is not enough that they've been abused, but it's just getting worse when they have to be, re-victimized by getting these 18 postponements. It's ridiculous.
That 18 times postponement in 3 years, looking at the victim on a daily basis, you call it re-victimization. Is it acceptable that a case can be dragged on for so long?
It's totally unacceptable. And that is why, as an organization, we are saying that people need to account. We are going down to Boschfontein, not only Boschfontein, especially in your semi-urban areas. That's where things are not really happening, where people are not empowered in terms of what their rights are and who to contact, and why does it have to take civil society organizations, advocacy groups to actually stand up for children's rights and say that this is unacceptable. If this case didn't come to us, I'm telling you, there was going to be another postponement on that day.
How prevalent is this in our courts and in our justice system? Is this an everyday occurrence?
It's an everyday occurrence. We have a number of cases where cases are just going to be postponed because somebody didn't know that this child can't speak the language. Surely the person that's responsible, the prosecutor that's responsible for the case, should have made prior arrangements to get an interpreter for the case, a docket that doesn't come to court. A number of issues around intermediaries. We don't have enough intermediaries. We just don't have resources to deal with child abuse cases.
Is that the fact that there is no human resource, or is it just pure incompetence?
We have lack of resources and pure incompetence and being desensitized to issues of child abuse cases, taking a case as just another case of child abuse and not really looking at the bigger picture here, which means that secondary victimization, what it does to the child, a minor child being exposed to child abuse, and as long as the court system is dragging, that's why our children do not want to continue with cases, and parents feel, they're too drained to continue with the system. And knowing that by the time this child speaks, it took a toll on her. And to have to go through the system and having to be failed. And I think, we need our Minister of Justice to actually, do something about it. We want the NPA to come on board. We want the prosecutors, the ones like Mr. Musibi in Boschfontein Court, to actually explain and come out and really say why so much incompetence in this particular case in Donga. It's just totally unacceptable.
Is it only the Minister and the justice system that's responsible for this, or is it also society?
Society is also responsible. I would just speak about the police. They have a responsibility towards our children, the medical personnel that sees these children, the social workers that sees the children, the teachers that deal with children every day, the parents that are being taught, because we know other parents and know about it, but they don't support their children, the neighbors that know. Our Children's Act clearly states that if you know about child abuse and you fail to report it, you're also guilty of an offense that is punishable by law. So everybody's got a responsibility towards our children. And when we talk of child abuse, when we talk of International Children's Day, National Children's Week, we need to think about what is our responsibility and how accountable are we, exactly how are we going to uphold the rights of our children, and people need to account.
Essentially, from Women and Men Against Child Abuse, how are you going to ensure that we protect our children, number one, and that justice is served?
As an organization, we've been very vocal, and as advocates of children's rights, every case that comes to us, we ensure that it goes through the system, and then there is minimal, secondary victimization, because we can't really promise that the child is not going to be traumatized as they go to court. But we want everything that needs to be done for a child from inception to the end, and also to reintegrate our children to society and make them functional by giving therapeutic services and ensuring that the parents are also there to be supported when dealing with cases of abuse, and also make people accountable, because we are going to be going after those ones that are not really taking cases of child abuse seriously.
If people want to get hold of you if they get a similar problem like this, how do they do that?
Okay, they can contact our head office line, and we are going to redirect them. Our landline is 011 789 8815.
Well, that was an interview we did yesterday in light of International Children's Day. Now, the South African Local Government Association, SALGA, embarked on a joint initiative with the Office of the Rights of the Children and other stakeholders from provincial government as well as state agencies to commemorate International Children's Day in Priska in the Northern Cape. Key to the event in the provision of integrated basic services for the children from communities within the jurisdiction of Sinatemba local municipality. Our reporter, Reginald Witboy, was in Priska for the event.
We are coming to you live from Priska here in the Northern Cape. It lies about 250 kilometers southwest from its nearest city, Kimberley, here in the Northern Cape. It's a predominantly Afrikaans-speaking town with a population of 15,000 residents. Now, we are coming to you live from D.P. Williams Primary School, and we know that today is indeed International Children's Day, and also this week it's Child Protection Week. And we know that the Children's Act of 2005 clearly states that all children have the right to basic services, and today they are getting those basic services out here in Priska. But to tell us more about this, I'm now joined by the mayor of the Sinatemba local municipality, Mr. Piet Papier. Good morning, Mr. Papier. If you can just tell us what exactly is happening out here at D.P. Williams Primary School.
Good day to you and welcome to Sinatemba local municipality, which consists of the community of Priska, Merridale and Nikerkshoop. And as you have mentioned, it's International Children's Rights Day, where we want to create a very friendly community, a very child-friendly community, and ensuring them to be healthy and ensuring them to keep hope and to reach their full potential. Today, with the assistance of our many stakeholders, and to mention a few, the Office of the Premier, with SALGA, with SASA, Social Services, Health, and the NGOs and the faith-based organizations, here we make available services to our lovely children, like the Road to Health services, where they get screened for deficiencies, where they get tested for TB, for hearing, for speech, and all of them that is not having birth certificates to get them, to give them access to grants. Those that can participate in the program of Home Affairs, of the Smart Card ID, where they get access to this. And all of this is free of charge, and we welcome and we want to thank all the stakeholders for coming to our communities and making these wonderful rights and privileges to make them a reality.
Now also here in Priska, Mayor, we have a situation where fetal alcohol syndrome is actually, it's very high. What's the municipality actually doing in terms of getting rid of fetal alcohol syndrome in Priska?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we have many challenges, and you have singled out only the basic one. And what our approach to life is to ensure that life should be about joy. It's about information. It's about ensuring that you can become the best and to be a best informed and aware person. And we form close ties with the various government departments to keep the contact and to keep the information relevant and to ensure that people get access to basic services so that we can overcome all these legacy issues that we are having facing us on a daily basis. And going forward, it's about access to information, it's about awareness, and it's about getting good quality information and guide mentorship for our children and set good examples for them to go forward. And therefore, we are thankful for all the wonderful people who are here so that our people can see we can overcome the many challenges that we face in life.
And then also lastly, Mayor, what happens in a case where a child actually needs basic services but his or her parents can't afford it? For instance, they need glasses. What's the municipality doing in assisting those in need?
We have demonstrated that we assist people where cost is an issue. I need to point out to you as well that we are a pilot site within Pixley of the NHI, the National Health Insurance Project, who assist us a lot. We are well connected with the Transnet Foundation, who is also coming in and making the services available. And we have experienced and see the goodness of heart of many individuals and our local government to assist people and families who cannot, due to cost, not access those facilities that are there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Well, Elvis, that was Mr. Pete Papir from the Siyathemba local municipality, and he is indeed the mayor. Children are getting basic services here. We have dietitians, pediatricians, psychologists, and then just to mention a few, they are also getting screening, health service screening. But with that, with all these happy faces, they are actually happy that they are getting all these basic services here today.
Well, we'll be taking a short break, but Kendall is standing by with your sports news, so stay tuned.
What's wrong with Triple M? What is illegal here? Who is being defrauded here, Trevor?
It is about the best interest of the citizens of this country.
But the citizens are the ones who are playing, who are members or participants in this. If you put in 15,000 rand, after 12 months you get 1.2 million rands. I mean, who wouldn't go for this?
Watch Question Time with me, Mpho Tsedu, Monday to Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on the SABC News Channel.
Good morning, welcome back. My name is Kendall Makhamat and I've got your sports on Newsroom. Now, the memorial service of the late Ted Dumitru will be held today in Johannesburg at the Ellis Park Arena. The service to the former Bafana mentor will be open to the public and is scheduled to begin in less than 25 minutes at midday today. The 76-year-old collapsed in Johannesburg Mall on the 26th of May after suffering a heart attack. Dumitru started his coaching career back in his native Romania in 1964. Now, here in South Africa, he coached the Big Three franchises, Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns and Orlando Pirates. In the process, he won numerous trophies: the league title, MTN 8, Nedbank Cup, Telkom Charity Cup, Rothmans Cup and the Telkom Knockout Cup. He's also been at the helm of several national teams, that's Swaziland, Namibia and Zambia. In 2006, he joined Bafana, taking the team to the Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt. Now, the passing of Ted Dumitru has rocked South African soccer fraternity. Considered a legend amongst legends, his coaching philosophy has been adopted and adapted by many across several generations. From players to coaches, his methods are revered as amongst the most technically astute in the modern era. Now, joining us from Ellis Park Arena is Sfiso Ramara, senior sports reporter for SABC. Sfiso, hearty good morning to you, and I hope that you can hear me. Sfiso, this is Kendall. Are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you, bro.
So we're on air right now, and we're hoping that being there, because right now we're looking at pictures of some of the attendees at the memorial service, people who held him dear. Can you tell us a little bit about the man, Dumitru, and how he's affected the South African soccer landscape? Right, we're gonna try and get through to Swiss as soon as we can. Yeah, and I think let's leave it for now. Let's try and get hold of Swiso again in a few moments' time and see if we can actually connect with the man, because it would be quite key for us to see what is happening there and what his thoughts are on the passing of this legend amongst legends. Now, moving on to other sports stories for now, the 4-person independent panel convened to review South Africa's national cricket team's performance last season has been disbanded. The commission included Cricket South Africa's head of HR, Don Mokhobo, former Test cricketer Adam Bacher, sports physiologist Ross Tucker, and World Cup winning Springbok captain Francois Pienaar. The panel was mandated to interrogate the Proteas' recent poor performances, where they lost back-to-back series to India and England, as well as the national under-19 side, who failed to defend their World Cup title. The performances of Russell Domingo, South Africa's coach, were also to be looked at. According to sources, the panel held preliminary meetings at the end of April and discussed the scope and processes of their review, which included identifying timeframes as well as cost. Now, this all came to an end when the panel realized that they could neither agree on the terms, timeframes, the scope, or the processes to be followed. Cricket South Africa has declined to comment at this stage, this while they await an update from the chairperson of the review committee. Staying with cricket news, Zimbabwe cricket has made sweeping changes ahead of its limited overs series against India. Coach Dave Watmore and skipper Hamilton Masakadza were sacked, while former South African fast bowler Makhaya Ntini and Graham Creamer were named as interim coach and captain of the side, respectively. Zimbabwe cricket cited the team's poor performances at the ICC World T20 as a reason for sacking Watmore and Masakadza. Zimbabwe failed to make it out of the preliminary stage in the tournament. Watmore, who was handed a 4-year contract in April last year, will now be replaced by bowling coach Ntini on an interim basis. Zimbabwe have also signed a former South Africa all-rounder Lance Klusner as batting coach for 2 years. They play India in 3 one-day internationals and as many T20 internationals starting on June the 11th at the Harare Sports Club. And defending French Open champion Stanislav Wawrinka of Switzerland says his semi-final clash against second-seeded Brit Andy Murray on Friday will be a great challenge. Murray defeated 9th-seeded local hero Richard Gasquet in 4 sets in a quarter-final match in Paris on Wednesday. Third seed Wawrinka, meanwhile, disposed of Spaniard Albert Ramos Vinolas in straight sets.
Much was expected from the clash between Murray and the informed Frenchman. Initially, Gasquet did not disappoint. He delighted the French crowd when he clinched the first set 7-5.
He wins 5 games in a row.
But, as usual, Murray wasn't done yet. The Scotsman fought back to win the next 3 7-6, 6-love, 6-2 to reach the last 4 in Paris for the 4th time. Murray, however, admits that Wawrinka will be another ball game altogether.
Obviously won the tournament last week and has been playing better with each match here, so it'll be obviously very tough. He plays well on that court, so I'll have to play great tennis to beat him.
Wawrinka stormed into the semi-finals courtesy of a solid victory over Ramos Vinolas. Despite getting off to a slow start in the opening rounds, the Swiss raced past the Spaniard 6-2, 6-1, 7-6 and is relishing the opportunity to play the world number 2.
He improved a lot. He's playing so well, especially again if you look this year. He won Rome, final in Madrid, semi-final Monaco. So it's going to be interesting match for sure.
In the women's draw, Australian Samantha Stosa advanced to the semi-finals following a tense victory over Bulgarian Svetlana Peronkova. The 21st seed beat Peronkova, who earlier ousted second seed Agnieszka Radwanska 6-4, 7-6. Stosa will face number 4 Garbine Muguruza next. Muguruza ended the dream run of American Shelby Rogers. The Spaniard reached her first semi-final at Roland Garros with a 7-5, 6-3 win. Liesl Zankel, SABC News.
Now, a little earlier, we tried to get through to Sfiso Ramara, who's at Ellis Park, to speak to us about the memorial service for Ted Dumitru, the legend amongst legends of coaches in South Africa. And we're going to try again now and see if we can get hold of him. We've got, as you can see right behind me, we've got pictures at the scene of people who are waiting for the service to start, people who, for whom Ted Dumitru made a big difference. These are obviously soccer-loving fans. As you can see, they're all there, all the big fans that you see on TV every single weekend. I was wondering now, let's see if we can get hold of Sfiso. Sfiso, I'm wondering if you're there and if you can hear us.
I'm here already, Kendall, and I can hear you. Good day to you and to the viewers. A very sad week indeed for South African football. I was listening to your introduction earlier, and you got it right. Ted Dumitru served, selflessly and loyally in South African football for the past 3 decades. And I think his passing on will leave a very much big void. It's not going to be easy to replace a man of that caliber. I mean, he has coached all the 3 big teams in South Africa, something that is unheard of. And you know what? His most successful stint was when he was coach at Chiefs. He coached Chiefs twice. First, when he arrived here in South Africa back in 1985, between 1985 and 1988, and he won a total of 8 trophies with Chiefs. And he had another stint later on with Chiefs, managing to win 2 back-to-back league titles. And we all know that in the 90s he managed to win 2 league titles with Mamelodi Sundowns. People have started trickling in here. The program is supposed to start at 12. Hopefully by the time all the formalities start, everyone will be seated, and we're expecting a great man to have a good send-off.
So thank you very much for bringing us up to speed to the kind of impact that this man has had on the South African soccer landscape. He was also an early mentor to Mamelodi Sundowns and former Bafana coach Pitso Mosimane. Who else was touched by his methods personally?
Yeah, well, Ted Dumitru, without any doubt, he has touched many lives in South African football. I was reading an article a few days ago saying he has produced a total of 150 or more quality players, And in terms of coaching, we all know that, he had his coaching school and whatever. He has produced over 180 coaches. I mean, the likes of Pitso Mosimane of Mamelodi Sundowns, the reigning PSL coach of the season, Dan Malisela of Chippa United. He also touched his life. And a lot of youth coaches went through, the hands of Ted Dumitru.
Can you tell us, Suso, in terms of the people that we're expecting to see at the service today, because I can see a lot of seats are still empty for now, but I'm sure people are going to be making their way through to Ellis Park Arena. Who else are we expecting to be arriving, and who has arrived already?
Yeah, well, it's good to have spotted former players, the players that played under Ted Dumitru, both at Mamelodi Sundowns and Kaizer Chiefs. I think Roger Fetumba, the midfield maestro, will be here, and he will be amongst the speakers. And I've also spotted Eric Ramasike as well as Isaac Shai. All the 3 top teams in South Africa that Mr. Dumitru coached, Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates, as well as Mamelodi Sundowns. They have sent representatives to come and speak on behalf of the teams. And the PSL as well, they've sent Professor Ronnie Slosh. He will be speaking on behalf of the PSL. From the side of SAFA, maybe we must remind the viewers, Ted was serving in the technical committee of SAFA. So the most relevant person, obviously, to speak on this unfortunate day should be Natasha Chiklas, who's the head of SAFA's technical committee.
So I want to thank you so much for bringing us this live update of what's happening at this really sad day for the South African footballing fraternity. It's been a sad week indeed, and that was Sfiso Ramara, senior sports reporter who is at Ted Dumitru's memorial service at the Ellis Park Arena in central Johannesburg. You will be sure to be getting a full report of this in later bulletins today. You're watching SABC. This is Newsroom. Now, we've got some comments from some of you with regards to some of the things that are actually pertinent and important to all of us today. And the question for the day was really about the difficulties around starting a business in South Africa. Cedric Mashego says, it's very hard to start a business in South Africa. I just found out today that the NYDA registered your business for you, and they do it for free. That was a surprise, considering that I've gone to their offices more than 10 times and it was never mentioned. Funding is impossible, not nearly impossible, it's just impossible. Cedric, you hit the nail on the head there. A lot of people's experiences are information is withheld, whether it's deliberate or whether it's through not knowing. That remains to be asked. Pete Meyer, business impossible. No one even wants to listen to renewable clean electricity projects that can double our country's need. How about that? Wow. Let's see if we've got any more comments. on the difficulties around getting and starting a business in South Africa. As you can see, most of the comments, the 2 comments that we've got, are really about how difficult it is to do business in South Africa. Now, if you've got any more comments about this particular topic, please go ahead, send them to us. Give us your thoughts on it as I get joined by my colleagues Elvis as well as Rene, and we shut this show down and let you know exactly how enjoyable it's been to be with you on Newsroom today. On this day, the 2nd of June, we've hit half-time in the year, and it's been a good one so far.
It's been a good one, and of course a good question that we posed today, and I think, you know, people are very excited about this question because there is a lackluster atmosphere in terms of entrepreneurial spirit in this country, but we can get it right. NYDA told us earlier, come with your idea and we will start your business for you.
We'll hold them to it.
Yeah, we'll hold them to it. So there you have it. That's all we have for you for today. From myself, Elvis Preslin.
And me, Renee West.
As well as me, Kendall Makamate.
And Eben Janssen. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Ciao for now. Arrivederci.
Ligamos. Nice one, brother.
Certain choices in life lead us not to our destination. Prostitution will not.
Everything that I used to do then, it was something that I never thought of, I never dreamed of.
One bad choice in life led her to another.
Most of my clients, they used to ask me a question, what am I doing in that industry? Because it does not suit me at all.
Her demons haunted her until she changed her life.